southbound between junctions 2 and 1 has roadworks with 2 lanes closed and delays of around 1 hour. In Suffolk, the A14 eastbound between junctions 47A and 49 at Stowmarket West has a crash blocking 1 lane. And in Kent, the A21 northbound between the A262 and the A228 is slow with delays of 30 minutes. And on the trains, Chiltern Railways has major disruption to and from London Marylebone, and Great Western Railway has rail replacement between Liskeard and Loo. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
More than 10 people have had to be rescued after a huge sinkhole opened in a canal in Shropshire, leaving several narrowboats stranded.
Yes, 3 boats have been affected by the incident, with at least 2 swallowed by the sinkhole, which is approximately 50 by 50 metres in size.
Extraordinary. Well, joining us with the story is Paul Smith-Story, who's on a canal boat 3 boats away from this sinkhole. Paul, this sort of thing doesn't really happen very often, does it?
It doesn't. There was a huge breach on the Bridgewater Canal last year, but this is the first time we've actually seen boats at the bottom of the breach. It was quite scary to witness, to be honest.
So how close are you? What can you see from where you are?
Yeah, well, we're about 90 metres away from where the sinkhole started. We got woke up at 20 past 4 this morning. There was crashing on the boat because the boat was listing. We got off and a friend of ours told us that there was this sinkhole that had appeared and that there was a boat about to drop into it. And that was, when we got there, the boat was already in the bottom of this sinkhole. The rush of water was incredible. It just sounded like a huge waterfall. Luckily, those boaters got out, and we actually know the chap whose first boat went in. We're just so thankful that he got out in time with his dog.
Gosh, Paul, just explain what we're seeing on our screens right now. So the narrow boat there has come out of the water that we see on the left, and has it rolled over and down into the sinkhole? What's going on?
That's the actual line where the red clay is the line of the canal. Just where those 3 trees are to the left is a field that's flooded, and I think that's where the water's escaped from the canal, and it's just flooded the field to the left of that image. It was really scary.
GB News, the People's Channel.
All too often, people will be sitting at home watching a press conference live, and they'll hear loads of questions being asked, and they'll be thinking, that's not my question, that's not my concern.
We don't care whose feathers we ruffle. We ask the questions that you want answering.
You're all standing on the street protesting and wanted to have an open discussion.
My name's Patrick Christie's. I do a show for GB News in the UK. Is it possible to talk to you quickly?
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, this is the best view ever of Whitehall, looking out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GB News, and that's what sets us apart.
Good morning, it's 9:30 a.m. on Friday the 16th of January. We are live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Alex Armstrong and Miriam Cates.
This is the latest Christmas present I've ever had. And on that note, I will welcome Robert Jenrick into this room and into Reform UK.
Well, that was the bombshell news yesterday that Robert Jenrick has defected to Reform UK after the Tory leader Kemi Badenoch fired him as Shadow Justice Secretary after his plans to defect were leaked.
I was very sorry to be presented with clear, irrefutable evidence, not just that he was preparing to defect, but he was planning to do so in the most damaging way possible to the Conservative Party and his shadow cabinet colleagues.
Will be joining us at 11 o'clock, but who is responsible for all this chaos? Is this a political spy story? Was it a mole? Or as simple as leaving papers in a photocopier? One thing is for certain, Kemi Badenoch seems rather happy with her decision.
And all I would say to Nigel is, Rob's not my problem anymore, he's your problem now.
But I must declare today that the Chief Constable of West Midlands Police no longer has my confidence.
Well, perhaps a man grateful to be out of the spotlight thanks to the Robert Jenrick defection yesterday, the defiant West Midlands Chief Constable who refuses to quit despite admitting that he lied to block Israeli football fans from attending a match. Will he finally resign today?
The deadline for submitting evidence to postpone local elections has now passed, with millions of people now seeing theirs delayed.
Elsewhere, the Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Marshall gives Donald Trump her award during a meeting at the White House.
And are fast food chains the next victim to Labour's tax regime? Is there anyone they won't tax? Well, Leon Boss thinks so, as he's forced to close 20 restaurants as part of a radical turnaround. What a day yesterday. I was glued to my TV. I wasn't here. It was one of those days where obviously people like us would love to be in the studio. You were here,
I was
though.
in the studio as it broke. It was
incredible.
Fascinating. And of course, the news just came through. Kemi Badenoch has sacked Robert Jenrick.
You must jaw on the desk.
And I mean, we instantly assumed that he was defecting, and obviously we weren't wrong. But it did hijack Nigel Farage's first press conference of the day in Scotland. Of course, the day was filled with Westminster gossip and the story of how this came out. But I think there is a much bigger story here, Alex, which is all about the right of British politics realigning, ready for the election. And once we've got over the kind of did he, didn't he, who did what, I think there'll be a much bigger story about what comes next for Conservatism in Britain.
I think you're right, and what a blinder she played, though. I mean, you've got to give Kemi her credit here. She got ahead of the story, she got it out first thing in the morning, and then they even leaked Jenrick's speech minutes before he was about to defect formally, which scuppered his defection press conference, didn't it? But also, Jenrick, they're coming out punching. What a speech, what a sensational day.
Exactly, I think she acted tactically very well, but I think probably yesterday was Reform's day. But we will see. There's plenty of water to go under the bridge. Please do let us know what you think throughout the programme. Visit gbnews.com/your say.
But first, here's your 60-second news update with Sophia Wensler.
Miriam, Alex, thank you and good morning. Your headlines from the GB Newsroom. Robert Jenrick has declared that the Conservative Party broke Britain in an attack on former colleagues as he defected to Reform UK. The former Conservative Shadow Minister announced he's joining Reform UK hours after he was sacked by the Tory leader Kemi Badenoch over what she called clear and irrefutable evidence that he was conspiring to jump ship. The Venezuelan opposition leader has given her Nobel Peace Prize medal to President Donald Trump during a meeting at the White House, calling it an historic day for us Venezuelans. The deadline for submitting evidence to postpone local elections has now passed, with millions of people now seeing theirs delayed. It comes as a key figure from Donald Trump's administration has criticised the government for cancelling the local elections. And a lone British soldier has been sent to Greenland, while NATO allies have begun deploying military personnel to the territory after Donald Trump's demands to take control of it. The White House, however, has said it doesn't alter US President's plans to get his hands on the island. Those are your latest GB News headlines. I'll have more news for you at the top of the hour.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Alex Armstrong and Miriam Cates.
Well, what a day for politics it was yesterday after Robert Jenrick, the former Shadow Justice Secretary, sensationally defected to Reform.
Now, this news might not have broken in the way that Nigel Farage had intended, nor did Reform's announcement later on be quite smooth sailing.
Changed his mind, has he? We can't find him. Do we play music now, or what do we do? No.
Nevertheless, in his first remarks as a Reform MP, Mr Jenrick did not mince his words on the state of the country and his former party.
Is Britain broken? I said instinctively, it's broken. Almost everyone said, it's not broken. And we were told that is the party line. A few had a third position. It is broken, but we can't say so because the Conservative Party broke it.
All right. Wow.
Big stuff. Well, let's speak to our political editor, Christopher Hope. A good day for political journalists yesterday, plenty of work. There are so many angles to take on this story, but what was the atmosphere like in that room in the press conference at 4:30?
Yeah, that moment when there was about a 30 or 40-second delay before the new MP arrived, in this case Robert Jenrick, was really strange. I mean, it was we were saying, well, has he backed out?
You ditched him at the altar, that was...
Yeah.
Would have been the ultimate blinder if he ended up going, I'm not going anywhere.
I know.
Actually, wouldn't it?
Joining the Lib Dems.
Yeah.
Well, that announcement was meant to be about something else altogether, the delay to local elections. But no, it was an extraordinary moment. He talked about May the 7th, the deadline. He talked about of any more defectors must come across before these local elections in England and Scotland and Wales, of course, because he says after that the door is shut, the drawbridge is up. So speculation now is who else might go across. We know there's a Labour figure unveiled on Tuesday, but who else might follow Robert Jenrick? He's quite a isolated figure in Westminster for me since Danny Kruger, his best pal, went across to Reform UK, of course, last year. So who else might go? That's what we're looking at right now.
But I suppose the key thing, as far as the Conservatives were concerned, he might have been isolated in the Palace of Westminster, but his views are not isolated in the country. And actually, they're very well represented within the Conservative Party, or at least they were. And the question will be now, well, if there's no space for Robert Jenrick in the Conservative Party, how many more members and activists will move across?
That's right. And some Reform members might think, why on earth are we signing up Tory retreads? We are the Change Party, not the old party. So it cuts both ways, that, Miriam. But I think you're right. I think a lot of people were thinking, well, if he's going across, why shouldn't I? Talk started in September last year. He gave this a lot of thought. He told us yesterday, this is Robert Jenrick, we have to build the truth and act, he said. It's a sad day for him, Tory member since age 14. But I should say that was meant to be a press conference about delayed local elections. I think we have a clip from Steve Reed, who's the local government secretary. He said to us, for my podcast, Chopper's Political Podcast, he justified delaying these elections because this one said money saved, 35 million and more, we spent on potholes. Here's what he told GBNews.
And it's not denying democracy. You know, I believe strongly.
That's what critics say, though. They say it is.
Of course they do, but they're wrong. They're wrong. It's speeding up elections to the new councils that will replace the councils that are being closed down. And I think that is sensible. We're looking at councils that will be there for the long term. Any elections that are delayed, it will be for a year. The elections would take place to the new councils we anticipate in 2027. But it does mean we can fix the problems that people are seeing in their streets faster, and that is why, after all, people take part in these elections.
That's Steve Reed talking to us. He's in charge, of course, of that delay. The deadline was last night. He'll say next week how many delayed. We know at least 21, 7 more Labour councils, 2 plus 3 Tory ones, and a Lib Dem council. The Reform UK, of course, say it's denying democracy. They deny it.
Yeah, well, it certainly feels that way, and I know we speak to a lot of people up and down the country. I think Miriam was just showing me that Steve Reed said they were pointless local elections to have, but many people want to have their say, don't they? Particularly at a time when people are so disaffected.
Well, the problem I have with it, if you think it's just too costly to have elections, stop having elections. And then we're a dictatorship. Well, at what point do you say, well, you start to say, well, why are we doing this? It's costing money. Well, you're doing it because it matters, right?
Exactly.
And isn't it extraordinary that the local government minister, Alex, says that local elections are pointless? Isn't that like the schools minister saying that schools are pointless, or Wes Streeting saying that hospitals are pointless? But this is your job, to uphold local democracy. And
he's saying that because they're being wound up in a couple of years' time or a year's time.
I know.
I totally get it, but the optics don't look good for a party that's trailing in some places 4th and 5th in the polls. But, you know, there we go. We'll see what happens, won't we, Chris? Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Chris. Well, you can watch and listen to the full interview with Steve Reed on Chopper's Political Podcast on gbnews.com.
We're now joined by Labour MP for Loughborough, Siobhan Sander. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Well, we've got to start with your thoughts on the Tory reform defection yesterday by the former Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick. Do you think this psychodrama that is the Conservative Party? I know Kemi Badenoch came out and said she didn't want more of it, but inadvertently she created one yesterday. How do you see it playing out for Labour here?
Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me. And firstly, it's actually Jeevan Sander.
Thanks for correcting me. Appreciate it.
In terms of this week, look what we've seen. We've seen the integrity of Zahawi and now the compassion of Jenrick joining Reform. Good luck to them, right? I don't know what's changed about them. Look, they used to believe, like we did in the Labour Party, about standing up to Putin. They used to believe in vaccines. They used to believe in climate change. And now they've gone off to Reform, a party that does or has supported Putin in the past, that is anti-vax, that denies climate change. That's a real shame.
I think obviously we don't have
a difference.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm sorry to interrupt you. But
what do we stand up for, and what do they stand up for? For me, it's about standing together to deal with country challenges.
There's nobody here from Reform to defend themselves, but it is not true that Nigel Farage has ever stood up for Putin. He made some comments about the war being predictable following the 2014 invasion of Crimea when the West did nothing about it. But I think Reform would very strongly deny that they are pro-Putin and certainly have never said anything along those lines.
Well, they said they admired Putin. They said they're not willing to send in troops to defend Ukraine. And by the way, absolutely, as we face this moment in history, we look back to the 1930s, what happened? We don't stand up to dictators in Eastern Europe. I'm proud to be part of a government, indeed part of what should be a cross-party consensus about stopping dictators in Eastern Europe. And I'll say this as well, and I say this as a Labour politician. I believe one of the greatest prime ministers in this nation was Winston Churchill, who made it clear that you stand up to dictators or you face the cost later on. That's what this Labour Party believes. That's not what Farage believes. That's not what Reform believes either.
Let's talk about potential Labour defection next week. Reform could be not just eating up Tory votes and MPs and Lords, but it could be eating your party as well. We've seen that in the Red Wall, where they're polling exceptionally well, where Labour should be breaking through. What is it about the Labour's current agenda and message that isn't breaking through to traditional working class voters?
Well, there's a huge amount that we have to change in this country. There's clearly a very dangerous moment that we're in. We're in a once-in-a-century crisis. Record low numbers, unable to afford a decent living as we came into office. We've seen the military crisis abroad. You see how difficult things are here in a planet that's burning as well. Those are things that we have to fix and get right. And that is taking time, and it will take time. So fundamentally, the change we will deliver over the next 5 years will determine what happens at the next election. And also, that is the poll that matters. In terms of any specific defection, I mean, look, I can't comment upon something that hasn't happened yet, but I will say this. We joined the Labour Party because our values say that every single person when this country does well, when we stand together, we do better. I think in times are difficult, not just as a party, but as a country, you have two choices. You can either give up or you fight like hell. And our decision that I'm going to make, as indeed I expect every other Labour MP and Labour politician to make.
But isn't the reason that people are so interested in this news about Labour and Tory, about Reform and Tory defections, that everybody knows that the Labour Party is going to be wiped out in the next election, so they're looking for who comes next?
Well, no, Miriam, because the election's in 3 years' time, and we'll see what the result is at that particular point in time. I certainly don't have a crystal ball. What I do believe is you fix this country and you win elections. It's also quite normal for all of history to have parties who are in government have a fall in midterm poll ratings. You know, if you were right, by the way, in 2012 when the Conservatives were 14 points behind, I remember being a Labour Party member then, they would have said, well, the Conservatives are going to lose in 3 years' time. Why bother? That's obviously not what happened.
Jeevan, no chance of you ever defecting to, let's say, the Greens at all?
Absolutely not.
All right, well, let's see if you have to eat those words one day. But thank you very much for joining us, Mr Sander. Really appreciate it. Labour MP for Loughborough joining us this morning. Now, look, interesting times, isn't it, in politics? It is, because the traditional two parties are in complete free fall, politically speaking, and the British public are, as you correctly pointed out, looking for a difference.
And Mr Sander makes a great case for net zero, and in fact he posted a comment actually on Twitter yesterday asking if Claire Coutinho, the Shadow Energy Secretary, is going to defect because he's so pro all the environmental policies, but the public don't support them anymore, and I think this is the problem that Labour are going to have.
Yeah, well, that's let's see, shall. It's going to be an interesting few years still ahead. How are fast food restaurant chains going to survive Labour's tax regime?
But up next, Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado gives Donald Trump her award during a meeting at the White House.
But first, you're in search of some holiday sun. Here's the forecast for some of our top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The weather's looking unsettled across much of southern Europe as we go through this weekend. Heavy rain affecting parts of Portugal, around the outskirts of Spain as well. Some significant snow building up over the Pyrenees. Even further east in other parts of the Mediterranean, hefty showery downpours with the risk of some thunder. And worth bearing in mind, strong gusty winds are going to lead to some rough seas as well. Staying pretty unsettled for some places as we go into next week. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I think it's really a shocking statistic to hear, but it's one that we've heard a lot of in recent years, that suicide is the biggest killer of men under the age of 50. Do you think the government are doing enough to try and reduce that number?
Well, I mean, look, it's a very difficult, very touchy subject. I've lost friends to suicide, so many of us, you know, and it's devastating. It ruins families, ruins lives, and it's so sad that maybe that person did commit suicide, could be here, if there was some bit of support, someone looking out for them. So, look, I'm not pointing the blame at anyone, because life's hard, yeah, and it's only going to get tougher this year. So if anyone watching this wants to set up a little group on a Sunday, go and do it, you know. Look after your friends, look after your community. We're all there for one another. Let's all be there next year and the year after and the year after that. That's what it's all about.
And if people want to join in next week, how do they get involved?
Get yourself down to Thatcher's Arms in Brentwood in Essex. Be here for 8 a.m. We're going to have for a lovely stroll to the countryside. Bring your dogs, bring your mates, whoever. Come down here. We'll shake your hands. You're all welcome. Be a lovely day.
I actually think it's a really, really brilliant idea, I have to admit. Well, a GB News reporter, Bethany, who's normally in the studio with me, but I'm sending her out to a pub, also spoke to a few other people who were at the event to see what they thought. Let's have a listen.
Things like today are really, really important, you know. A group of blokes from all walks of life having various different issues that often go unspoken, whether it's, you know, addiction or marital issues or loneliness, social isolation, anxiety, depression, all those sorts of things. You know, it's nice to be able to come down here, have a chat with a bunch of blokes about the various issues going on in their lives.
I think it's really important for men. Hearing some of the stories today, you think you're alone all week and different things, and hearing some stories and talking to others today that you're not, you have to have a chill out from work.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Well, it's 11 minutes to 10. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
The Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado has handed her Nobel Peace Prize medal to Donald Trump at the White House, hailing his role in the fight for her country's freedom and calling it an historic moment for Venezuelans.
But while Mr. Trump praised the gesture as a sign of mutual respect, he stopped short of backing her claim to leadership and continues to engage instead with the interim president, Delcy Rodriguez.
We're now joined by US political commentator Nora Lee Notson. Nora Lee, thank you so much for joining us in the studio. This is quite a politically astute thing to do. Donald Trump, of course, really wants that Peace Prize, doesn't he? He's got one now, which is great. But what's the significance of this meeting?
I think this is very significant. Maria Machado is playing the long game. She is known as the Iron Lady in Venezuela. She's the daughter of steel magnates, and she is fighting for real democracy in Venezuela. And she's honoring Trump for taking the steps that he took to fight against tyranny, and actually hailing back 200 years ago when Lafayette fought for the American Revolution and Bolivar fought for Venezuela's independence from the Spanish. She's hailing back to that and giving this medal to him to remind him that eventually she does want democracy. She wants to see elections there. But realistically, we know that you need security there with the current regime for the oil companies to be able to invest and feel secure in their investments. The current leader, Delcy Rodriguez, she's cutting deals with Trump. She understands how it works, and she's happy to do that. She's actually announced with the current revenues of the $500 million that they've sold, she's setting up 2 funds to invest in businesses they have not invested in. So she's thinking about prosperity. But Machado's highlighting we eventually need democracy.
Now, critics of Trump are saying that although initially, after the spectacular operation to remove the president to start with, which obviously went very well from the American military point of view, that initially Trump was saying, well, we want freedom for Venezuelans, we want democracy, but actually all he's done so far is get his hands on Venezuelan oil. Do you think that's a fair criticism?
Well, I understand those comments, but let's be honest. You do not change a system overnight. They've learned from the failed Iraq war. You can't go in and get rid of all the leadership and expect things to be democratic. So you need to work with the current leadership and slowly transition.
And let's just briefly talk about Iran as well, because there was a lot of speculation this week and many reports suggesting that Trump was going to intervene militarily this week. That hasn't materialised yet. Has he had a change of heart in getting involved?
I think what's happening is they're reviewing all of the options and the consequences of getting in. You do not want to get in unless you can be 100% successful in regime change. And Trump has only seen success in his operations, in the initial operation in Iran, the operation in Venezuela. So he will only do it if he is almost guaranteed success.
Yeah.
Perhaps it is slightly too early, although we've seen the British Embassy remove staff, the French Embassy remove staff, and certainly from the base in Qatar, both American and British forces evacuated.
Yeah, that's a precursor in case they do decide to go in. But I think Trump would like to do things diplomatically if he can. But we just don't know if that's going to happen.
Very, very briefly, are we seeing a change of strategy from the Marga base, going from this anti-neocon, which was military interventions all over the world, more isolationist? Are we returning to a bit of the old here?
I think what we're seeing as Trump has invoked the Monroe Doctrine is a return to using your might to negotiate or just go in and execute an operation. He doesn't want boots on the ground. He has promised no new wars, so any sort of operation should be a clean operation.
Peace through strength, I think he says, doesn't
Yes, peace through strength.
Yeah.
Well, Noralee Knotson, thank you so much,
Thank you.
always, for joining us. And, Alex, it has been fascinating to see how Iran has been defanged by the US and Israel over the last couple of years, perhaps making space for regime change. Let's see.
Fingers crossed. Anyway, still ahead, we'll be speaking to Tory leader Kemi Badenoch after the bombshell news yesterday. And we can't wait to find out what she thinks about some of the questions we have to ask her.
And all I would say to Nigel is, Rob's not my problem anymore. He's your problem now.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Across western and southwestern parts, it's going to be quite blustery and showery through today. Further east, a greater chance of staying mostly dry. Can't rule out a few showers pushing their way east and northeastwards as we go through the day, but most of the showers today, they're going to be in the west and southwest. And here we are likely to see some flashes of lightning, a bit of thunder mixed in, even some hail as well, and watch out for those blustery winds too. Lighter winds further east and some decent sunny spells, and temperatures around what you'd expect for the time of year, just about getting into double digits towards the south, a few degrees lower than this further north. As we go overnight, the blustery winds in the southwest, they will be easing, but we're going to see further showery outbreaks of rain making their way north and eastwards across many places. Some of them could be a little bit heavy, could even be some winteriness over northern hills. With the winds dropping out, there's going to be some low cloud around, some murkiness, some mist, some fog in places, and even where the cloud clears, well, we could get some fog patches developing there as well. and also a touch of frost in some parts too. Through Saturday itself, worth noting any mist and fog could be pretty slow to clear. Some of that low cloud could linger all day. Otherwise, there will be some brighter breaks developing here and there. A bit difficult to pinpoint exactly where they're going to occur. If you get any sunshine and don't get those showery bursts of rain, not feeling too bad for the time of year. But if you're stuck under that fog or cloud, well, it's going to feel pretty cold indeed. Again, into Sunday, there could be some fog around, and this could be quite long-lasting. Also worth noting the potential for some damp weather across some central eastern parts of England, but signs as we go through into the afternoon of a bit of sunshine developing across parts of East Anglia and Kent, and also further west some sunshine breaking through across parts of Northern Ireland, Scotland and Western Wales. Temperatures similar to Saturday really, if you're stuck under the cloud, feeling pretty cold again. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M6 southbound entry slip at junction 26 near Wigan is closed after a collision, shutting all lanes. In Warwickshire, roadworks on the M6 southbound between junction 2 and junction 1 have closed 2 of 3 lanes, causing delays of around 30 minutes. In Surrey, a crash on the M25 anti-clockwise between junction 6 and junction 5 has 1 lane closed. The A14 eastbound between junction 47A and junction 49 near Stowmarket West has a collision blocking 1 lane. And on the trains, Chiltern Railway services to and from London Marylebone are disrupted. And Great Western Railway is using road transport between Liskeard and Looe. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
There's just 3 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to make 2026 the year of yes. That's yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to making all of those dreams come true this year. Just make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. 1 entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Friday the 16th of January. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Alex Armstrong and Miriam Cates.
This is the latest Christmas present I've ever had. And on that note, I will welcome Robert Jenrick into this room and into Reform UK.
That was the bombshell news yesterday that Robert Jenrick, the former Shadow Justice Secretary, has defected to Reform UK after Tory leader Kemi Badenoch fired him. And that's after his plans, of course, to defect were leaked.
I was very sorry to be presented with clear, irrefutable evidence, not just that he was preparing to defect, but he was planning to do so in the most damaging way possible to the Conservative Party and his shadow cabinet colleagues.
The question that's being asked in Westminster is who is responsible for this chaos? Is it a political spy story? Was there a mole? Or as simple as leaving papers lying around? Well, one thing is for certain, Kemi Badenoch seems rather happy with her decision.
And all I would say to Nigel is, Rob's not my problem anymore, he's your problem now.
That I must declare today that the Chief Constable of West Midlands Police no longer has my confidence.
And the man perhaps most grateful for that sensational defection by Robert Jenrick yesterday is the defiant West Midlands Chief Constable who refuses to quit despite admitting he lied to block Israeli football fans from attending a match. But will he finally do the right thing and resign today?
And the deadline for submitting evidence to postpone local elections has now passed, and millions of people are seeing their local elections delayed.
Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado gives Donald Trump her award during a meeting at the White House.
And are fast food chains the next victim to Labour's tax regime? Well, the Leon boss thinks so, as he's forced to close 20 restaurants as part of a radical turnaround. As a former MP, it was a fascinating day yesterday to watch, and I think the standout moments for me were actually when Robert Jenrick finally did take to the stage at 4:30. He was nervous, and I have never seen him nervous before. He's a very self-assured speaker. Now, he did absolutely relax into it. He ended up speaking without notes. It was one of the most passionate speeches, actually, I've ever heard him give, but it was so interesting that he was clearly shaken by the day's events at the start, at least.
Well, Kemi Badenoch pulled a blinder. She did, I mean, for all intents and purposes, as leader, she did her job and she did it very well. She even managed to scupper that defection press conference, didn't she, by releasing segments of his speech early. Well, that's the evidence, of course, that was leading to this whole drama, this whole psychodrama being played out, which is, of course, that segment of that speech there that was leaked to Kemi's
Well,
team.
we are going to be hearing from the Iron Lady herself, Kemi Badenoch, shortly after 11 a.m, so please do stick with us.
And get your comments in. What would you like to ask her? But first, here's the news with Sophia Wensler.
Alex, Miriam, thank you and good morning. It's just gone 10 o'clock. These are your headlines. Robert Jenrick has declared that the Conservative Party broke Britain in an attack on former colleagues as he defected to Reform UK. The former Conservative shadow minister announced he's joining Reform hours after he was sacked by Tory leader Kemi Badenoch over what she called clear, irrefutable evidence that he was conspiring to jump ship. Speaking at a press conference alongside Nigel Farage, the Reform leader, on Thursday, Mr Jenrick called his former party rotten, dishonest and no longer fit for purpose. Nick Timothy, the new Shadow Justice Secretary, said he did not recognise the Tory party that Mr Jenrick had described.
If you look at the challenges that the country faces, I think our economic model has run out of road. I think we need drastic change to make sure that we get back our lost sense of shared identity. We need to be really radical in reforming the state so we can actually get things done. The Conservative Party is very serious about tackling all of those things.
The Venezuelan opposition leader has given her Nobel Peace Prize medal to President Donald Trump during a meeting at the White House. Maria Corina Machado says it was a recognition of his commitment to her country's freedom, calling it an historic day for us Venezuelans. Mr Trump expressed his gratitude in a social media post, saying the move was a wonderful gesture of mutual respect. However, the US president stopped short of endorsing Machado as Venezuela's new leader, instead dealing with the acting head of state, Delcy Rodriguez, Maduro's former vice president. In other news now, the deadline for submitting evidence to postpone local elections has now passed, with millions of people now seeing theirs delayed. It comes as a key figure from Donald Trump's administration has criticised the government for cancelling local elections. Sarah B. Rogers, the US State Department's Undersecretary for Public Diplomacy, wrote on X that the UK government was cancelling local elections and curbing the right to a jury trial. 4 million people are set to be denied a vote in May, with the government expecting to cancel at least 27 council elections, protecting hundreds of councillors from the risk of being voted out. Local Government Secretary Steve Reed has defended the move while speaking on Chris Hope's political podcast.
And it's not denying democracy. You know, I believe strongly.
That's what critics say, though. They say it is.
Of course they do, but they're wrong. They're wrong. It's speeding up elections to the new councils that will replace the councils that are being closed down. And I think that is sensible. We're looking at councils that will be there for the long term. Any elections that are delayed, it will be for a year. The elections would take place to the new councils we anticipate in 2027. But it does mean we can fix the problems that people are seeing in their streets faster, and that is why, after all, people take part in these elections.
Elsewhere now, a lone British soldier has been sent to Greenland as NATO allies have begun deploying military personnel to the territory as diplomatic efforts in Washington collapsed over President Trump's demands to take control of it. The White House, however, has said the deployment of European troops to the country doesn't alter the president's plans to get his hands on the Arctic island. Meanwhile, France has warned the US that any move to seize Greenland would amount to a crossed line, endangering Europe's economic relationship with Washington. The US president has repeatedly threatened the use of military force to seize the island, which he claims is at risk of falling into the hands of Russia and China. Veterans will be able to be recalled for service until they're 65 under measures aimed at preparing Britain for war. The proposed changes would extend the period during which former service members can be summoned back to duty by a full decade. Under the new framework, the upper age limit for the Strategic Reserve, comprising of former armed forces personnel rather than civilian volunteers, would rise from 55 to 65. Additionally, the government plans to lower the conditions required to call up these reservists. And X is still allowing users to post sexualised videos of women in bikinis generated by its AI tool Grok. That's according to The Guardian newspaper. It's despite the company's claim to have cracked down on misuse after weeks of rising public concern and condemnation from politicians. X said on Wednesday it had implemented technological measures to prevent the Grok account from allowing the editing of images of real people in revealing clothes such as bikinis. But it's now understood that the standalone app still continues to allow posting of the non-consensual content. Those are your latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Alex and Miriam.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Alex and Miriam.
Well, we'd love to know what you think about many different aspects of news at the moment, especially the politics. Let's go to gbnews.com/your say.
Well, it's a big day for politics today because we're talking about the fallout of Robert Jenrick's sensational defection to reform.
Now, the news might not have broken in the way that Nigel Farage had planned, or neither was Reform's announcement later an entirely smooth operation.
Hasn't changed his mind, has he? We can't find him. Do we play music now, or what do we do? No.
Well, he did show up in the end, didn't he, of course? And when he did, I have to say, I thought it was one of the most passionate speeches given at a Reform defection, at least, that I've seen. But also, I think he spoke from the heart, and it's obviously caused quite a stir.
Is Britain broken? I said instinctively, it's broken. Almost everyone said, it's not broken. And we were told, that is the party line. A few had a third position. It is broken, but we can't say so, because the Conservative Party broke it.
Well, speaking to GB News earlier today, the new Shadow Justice Secretary, that's Robert Jenrick's replacement, Nick Timothy, claimed that it was evidence that Kemi Badenoch is a serious leader.
And actually, one of the things about yesterday that I think was really important was the contrast between Kemi's leadership as somebody who acted decisively and takes very seriously those challenges, and the sense of backbiting and backstabbing.
But who could be next? Let's speak to our political editor, Christopher Hope. Chris, that speech by Robert Jenrick, that clip we showed moments ago, that was damning. That was, I mean, he's giving an insight into how Shadow Cabinet thinks, the fact that he's alleging that they can't say that Britain's broken. We'll ask Kemi Badenoch about that. Let's see if she'll say it on air, actually. But that sort of stuff is going to make the loyal Tories that are loyal to Jenrick think twice.
We can't say it's broken because we broke it. What a thing to say in that private meeting. That was a Cabinet away day last week that Robert Jenrick was part of. There's a problem, isn't there, with the 14 years of failure, really, for its core base. What was the most Conservative thing the Tories did in those 14 years? Maybe Brexit, but that wasn't Tory party policy. That was imposed on the party by the people. That's what's so fascinating.
Even the Tory government at the time weren't for it.
No, they opposed it. So, you know, you ask Tories, what did you do in your 14 years? And they can't say anything. They continue maybe the academy schools programme brought on by Tony Blair, but the big things weren't even their policies imposed on them by people. And then Britain broke. Things happened to the country. COVID happened, the energy shock, £500 billion spent on that. But problems there. But the focus now, on my world of politics, is who's next. We know on Tuesday, Reform are going to unveil a Labour figure to water down the very intense blue colour of that party, with 20 or so former or current Tories have joined it. Let's see who that is. Nigel Farage is focusing minds. He says May the 7th is your deadline. That's the local election date and also elections in Scotland and Wales. Sign up by then or the drawbridge is pulled up. On GBNews' website, we've got a list of possible candidates who could come across. You can see on screen now. Suella Braverman, Andrew Rosendale, who I've got my eyes on, by the way. Sir John Hayes, who's the mentor for Robert Jenrick. Bit old, maybe. May not feel now's the moment for a career change in your 60s. Lord Frost, now the IEA, a peer, wants to be an MP, wasn't allowed to be by Kemi Badenoch at the last election. Mark Francois in Shropshire. Jacob Rees-Mogg, we know him. He's our pal from GBNews.
Yes.
Tom Hunt, Ipswich, nearly went before the election. 50-50 chance he was going to go across.
He has been kicked out of the Conservative Party, however.
He has, and people thought he was on the way to the Reform Party. Nick Fletcher, Robin Miller, who would be quite a strong Welsh voice. Jane Stevenson, Damien Moore, formerly of Southport. So names there to conjure with. Will they go across? The risk here is that the next election, Kemi Badenoch, who you're talking to later, will be able to say, I'm the future, they are the past.
But the difficulty here for Reform, and Nigel Farage was very candid about this yesterday, he actually said in that press conference, our biggest weakness is inexperience. And he acknowledged that even though they want lots of candidates who haven't had a political career, who've been in business, in finance, all different walks of life, they still need people who know how Parliament works, who know how the government works, and they need those key people who have experience in government. Now, Robert Jenrick is a fantastic signing on that point of view. He is their first sitting MP, he's also an ex-cabinet minister, but they are running this risk. And he made some pointed comments about Zia Youssef. We think Zia Youssef might not be so happy with these Tory defections.
Yes, well, the two things there. Zia Youssef on Twitter likes to attack Tories and their records, as a lot of Reform people do. Nigel Farage says that's the risk of taking someone on. They have got a record. If you want someone who's had time in government, they've got a record of doing stuff and failing at stuff. So I think he said that Zia Youssef might calm down. But he's the angry person in Reform. I've got to say, for me, he's the only one who isn't paid to be there. The MPs are paid to be there.
He's paying to be there, is he not?
He's paying to be there. So, of all the people who's entitled to be angry, he is, because he's a donor who's not taking a salary. Everyone else is paid around him. The MPs are paid, the staff are paid. He's not being paid, and he's cross. And that anger is driving Reform forward. And just finally, I thought it was very interesting to hear Robert Jenrick say that the guy next to me, Nigel Farage, can be Prime Minister repeatedly. You don't often hear Nigel Farage say that so much, but to hear it from Robert Jenrick, the man who would have been the leader of the Tories say that was quite a moment for me in that room yesterday.
There you go. Well, listen, thank you very much, Christopher Hope. We're now joined by Deputy Political Editor at The Spectator, James Hill. James, thank you very much for joining us. Now, listen, I've spoke to quite a lot of Tories in the last 24 hours, and the ones loyal to Jenrick are furious. They are accusing Kemi Badenoch of jumping the gun, saying that he wasn't even ready to defect, and saying that actually this is a political assassination. She's taken away her only competitor ahead of the May elections fallout, which they suspect is going to be brutal. Is there any truth to that, James?
Well, look, I certainly think we need to hear from more people. Over the past 24 hours, it's been striking to me that there's been a disproportionate number of Conservative MPs speaking publicly who seem to be from the kind of more centre or centre-left of that party, the more One Nation wing, your kind of people like Neil Shishley-Hurst, for instance, someone like Jerome Mayhew. And so I'd be interested to see what more people on the sort of right of the Conservative Party are going to say. I mean, it was interesting to see Esther McVeigh speak out this morning. So I think we need to sort of wait and see how this all unfolds. I think Kemi Badenoch probably played a bad hand as best she could, and there are lots of colleagues across the party giving credit for that. She's made a sensible tactical appointment in having Nick Timothy take that role, someone who backed Robert Jenrick for leader. But I think overall, this was trying to make the best of a bad strategic move that was forced on her by Mr Jenrick and Reform UK.
But was it forced on her, James? Because, you know, this is what I mean. The speculation that he wasn't going to defect is backed up by Nigel Farage, who said there was no deal ready to go. And actually, it seems, as a lot of Tories are saying today, that Kemi Badenoch, rather than making this sort of gesture to try and keep the right of her party in the party, has gone, do you know what, we'll lose it. And actually, it plays into her hands exceptionally well.
I think to offer the case for Kemi Badenoch, her supporters would say, you know, this is someone who's put a lot of time in bringing the party with her on right-wing policies, such as leaving the ECHR. I know there was a huge amount of effort behind the scenes to bring people who were supporters of the ECHR membership, the likes of your kind of people like David Davis, Jesse Norman, along on that policy, which was unveiled at last party conference. Her argument would be, hang on a sec, I'm willing to invest in, you know, reaching out to the right, talking to people's concerns, getting these policies over the line, but what she can't stand is having people who challenge her leadership as she sees it. So I know that Nigel Farage yesterday said that, you know, there was no imminent deal, they weren't ready to sign a contract, etc. But it's pretty clear that both of them have been talking for a while about it. And I suppose if you are Kemi Badenoch, you think, why should I wait meekly for Mr Jenrick to make his decision? Let's give him a push and look strong while we're doing it.
Now, Robert Jenrick did make a very interesting and pretty passionate speech yesterday at that 4:30 p.m. press conference. But I think one of the most telling things that he said was that the Conservative Party is too compromised to speak for the country. And what he was getting at was that regardless of the individual merits of MPs within the Conservative Party, the catastrophe of the last government and the problems that it's left Britain with mean that the Conservative Party just won't be trusted again. Do you think that's a fair assessment of the situation as the electorate might see it?
I think there are some elements of the electorate who are certainly unwilling to ever give the Conservatives the vote again. They feel a sense of betrayal. But I do think, you know, everyone said the same thing about Labour in 2019. And hang on a sec, 5 years later, Keir Starmer won a stonking majority. So I do think that, you know, people can be more fickle than we sometimes think. And I think that the Conservative Party has a huge amount of intellectual and political capital, which is going into trying to rebuilding. And so you can never completely count them out. I think Reform are doing very well right now. But I think that the Tory Party has been written off many times before. And I think there's a few more twists and turns in this chapter to go.
James, one other thing, of course, in Robert's speech, he said that the Tories couldn't say openly that Britain was broken because it would be an admission that they broke it. Do you think there's any truth to that? And do you think that's possibly part of the reason that the Tories are struggling to regain that ground they lost in the last election?
Yeah, I certainly think that the Conservative track record is what's making it so difficult. They have to run against their own track record. This is very different to, say, after 97, when the Tories had a good golden inheritance they could hand over Tony Blair. There's very few things that most Conservatives, publicly or privately, will defend really over the last 14, 15 years or so. That being said, of course, I mean, we'll be interested to see whether Reform can really claim to be a completely new slate if the current rate of defections continues in the future as well.
Now, James, this whole psychodrama, as Kemi Badenoch herself termed it, is being seen through the lenses of loyalty. Which party are you loyal to? To which leader do you owe your loyalty? But do you think there's actually something deeper going on? That, yes, people like Robert Jenrick are ambitious. Of course, that's true. But they also do genuinely care about the country. And some of these defections are much more about thinking about what's best for Britain rather than, or as well as, their personal ambition.
It's a bit of both, and ambition and ideology and principle always go together in different concoctions depending on who you speak to about different people. I did think it was rather funny, Miriam, seeing all these Tories protesting yesterday about treachery. It gave me a rather echo of that line of, gentlemen, you can't fight in here, this is the war room. I mean, treachery very much has been the sort of USP of the Tory party for much of its history. So I think, look, I think that overall it's up to the electorate to make their judgment on this. I think they will look at what happened. There'll be some people who'll be impressed by Kemi Badenoch yesterday, but overall it's about projecting momentum for Reform UK and showing that they're the future of the right. And on the current polling, it looks like they've got a better of that in the medium term than the Conservatives do.
Well, James, I think you've got your next column. Treachery is the USP of the Tory party. I like it.
There we go. Thank you very much, James Hill, Deputy Political Editor at The Spectator there. Right. Well, we've got an interesting thing here for you, because Kemi Badenoch's summary sacking of Robert Jenrick and subsequent defection to Reform heralds a further fracturing of the centre-right in British politics.
Well, today we are asking, is it time for the right to unite? And friends of GB News can vote on that very question for free. Just scan the QR code that's on your screen right now or visit gbnews.com/youdecide.
All right, well, up next, fat jabs could supposedly save airlines millions. That's the reason, isn't it? Give everyone fat jabs so airlines can save money. We'll be going through...
People way less.
Well, apparently, yeah.
Less aviation fuel.
Less baggage. There you go. Maybe we'll get a discount on your flight as well. We'll be going through that and more with Dr. Renee Hunterkamp and Jonathan List. Fireworks, as usual. This is Britain's Newsroom, only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Christianity is on the rise in Britain, with the younger generation said to be the driving force. It's great, isn't it? In an effort to preserve the UK's cultural and religious heritage. New polling by a Tier Fund also found that 45% of British adults are planning to attend church this Christmas, which is a sharp rise from recent years. But what other factors might be driving this renewal in faith? Joining me now is the wonderful parliamentary sketch writer, Quentin Lett. Quentin, really good to see you. Thank you for coming on. A brilliant piece in today's Daily Mail. Read every word of it, found myself nodding along. Tell me more about what you've written, why you've written it, and what's happening with Christianity in this country.
Well, good afternoon, Dawn. I would start with that poll that you've just been mentioning. And it said that 45% of adults are intending to go to, this is what it found, 45% of adults intending to go to a service at a church this Christmas. But a more interesting part of that poll is that when you look at the younger people, Gen Z, 60% of them are intending, and it's many fewer, it's half the number for us baby boomers and the silent generation who are older than us. So that suggests, does it not, that something is stirring in the pews. And there was some prize in some senior church circles recently when Tommy Robinson, a right-wing politician, organised a carol service in Whitehall. Some of the bishops got very twitchy about this, but it does seem anecdotally that a lot of this growth in the church-going is, as you mentioned earlier, young men, but also perfectly possible that quite a lot of them are right-wing. Now, this is presenting the Church of England, which in recent years has started to look a bit like the Liberal Democrat Party at prayer.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. We're joined by GB News contributor and, well, of course, journalist Jonathan Liss. And, of course, we're here with Dr Renee too. Welcome to the show. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
What shall we talk about? Is there one story you're feeling particularly...
Let's talk about a certain toxic, grifting narcissist who only has ever cared about his own ambition.
Yeah, what are you doing here?
And...
You took like that. I knew that.
Well, it takes one to know one, mate. So, no, let's not talk about anyone on this panel, because everyone on this panel is entirely respectable and principled, even though I disagree with all of the three of you wholeheartedly on pretty much everything.
To hear it.
But Robert Jenrick, on the other hand, has shape-shifted more than your average chameleon, and I just cannot understand what's in it for Farage long-term. Because, first of all, reassembling Boris Johnson's cabinet is not necessarily a vote winner any more than it turned out to be a vote winner in 2024. So if you're just sort of... one of the reasons why Reform is doing so well in the polls is that they've galvanised non-voters to come out and vote for change. Now, if you're just stacking your party with more of the same, why would those people who don't vote come out and vote for that? It doesn't make any sense. And I suppose that the other problem is, long-term, is that Jenrick is not a team player. He's in it for himself. And Farage is the Farage show. In every single party he's been at the helm of, there hasn't been room for anyone else. Anyone who gets too close to him gets sort of thrown out the window, metaphorically speaking. You know, just ask Rupert Lowe. He off some mild critique of Farage's personality, and the next day he gets unpersoned. And that will exactly the same thing will happen to Jenrick.
I find the left's hysteria about this quite interesting, actually, because I think really it overcovers an underlying fear about this. That's what I think. I think that two things can be true at once, and I think Reform do need to be careful that they don't just become Tory point two. But the other side of this is Farage has never been in charge of a party that's about to be catapulted into number 10 with him as Prime Minister. And if he did that with just you, me, Miriam and Alex off the street, they're going to struggle. They do need experience of Parliament. They need hands on the tiller who know how it works, because it's a complex machine. So I think some of these decisions will be right. I would have more issue with the Nadeem Zahawi decision, because A, he's not in politics, B, he's done lots of things that have got him fired and have been dishonest in the past, and C, he really, really did not do well in the COVID issue, apart from demanding that people have vaccines that lots of Reform voters didn't want to have, demanding that children get vaccinated against their parents' wishes. So there is a bigger base, I think, in Reform that will dislike Nadeem than it would Jenrick. And I also think accusing Jenrick of just being a shapeshifter when you've got an entire Labour cabinet who can't decide from 1 minute to the next what a woman is, change their mind on that to suit the voters, swivel on everything, and have done 13 U-turns so far. I think that's a joke.
I mean, look, there are certain... In politics, obviously, you have differences on policy and you have fundamental principles. Robert Jenrick started out in politics being known by everybody as Robert Generic, a classic Cameroon centrist Tory, and now he's, you know, a frothing at the mouth, hard-right zealot. I mean, that doesn't... I mean, people can change their minds, but the point is, Renee, you're talking about experience. I agree with you, Reform needs experience, because right now they have none. But what they don't need is failure. Robert Jenrick's main issue is immigration. He was literally the immigration minister.
But he did resign from the government when they refused to get tougher on legal migration, and he was one of only 11 MPs, myself included, who risked losing the whip to vote against the failed Rwanda bill. So he put his money where his mouth is in the last year of government, and he put his career on the line. And Farage referred to that yesterday and said, you know, we know Jenrick's for real because he risked it all in government.
Farage called him a fraud a few months ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's political theatre. We all know they all do that to each other and they don't actually mean it.
Fraud is a strong word, Alex. It's very difficult for a politician to say, this guy's a fraud, I've always thought it, and now it's true.
They always do it, They always do that. You know, as you've been in this game as long as anyone, you know that politicians attack each other, then they all come round and sink and boil.
You should be welcoming this. This is what I don't understand, why the left are so frothy about this. And I have seen people on the radio losing their chisel over this. And I think you should be welcoming it, because you'd be thinking, excellent, they're going to turn off all their voters and they're going to fail.
Obviously, as a left-wing person, I am. But I'm just thinking, with my analyst hat on, I just don't think this is good for Reform. I think it's probably better for the Tory party in the long term, because they're sort of clearing the barnacles.
Do you not think, though,
that don't serve them?
Jonathan, I'm afraid to say there are precious few serious politicians in Parliament who are orators, who can speak fluently without notes, who have a grasp of a wide range of issues. Robert Jenrick is one of those people, and having been in the Commons with him, he is one of the most impressive speakers in Parliament. He is an impressive media performer. He's a phenomenally hard worker. Actually, I think he could be a great asset.
Well, look, I mean, look, time will tell, Miriam, but I think that, you know, I think that he comes across as being quite oily and smarmy. He doesn't have any authenticity. I think that, you know, his journey sort of
you don't think people can change their mind?
Look, of course people can change their mind. I'm talking about the way he presents himself. They're just being very, very polished, too shiny, if you like. And I think one thing we also have to talk about, the thing that he, I think, should be most remembered for is painting over that mural in the asylum centre for children, which he did when he was Immigration Minister, which, to my mind, whatever you think about asylum, was a totally gratuitous act of cruelty. I think that speaks to the man, and I'm afraid to our politics as well, that he thinks cruelty is the way to self-advancement.
Let's talk about this. On the front page of the Daily Mail today, they've got this call to unite the right. What do you make of that? Do you think that the Tories and Reform have to come together at some point?
I think this will be the reckoning now. Instead of May, when I think it would have been the reckoning, the elections, I think probably what this has done is brought it forward. And I think there will now be a hard think by lots of these people about what they need to do. And it is absolutely true that the reason the Tories failed in the end was because it was full of Lib Dems.
Yeah.
And lots of those Lib Dems are still there.
Yeah.
So
who are the Lib Dems, Renee? All the Lib Dems have gone.
They haven't. The Lib Dem voters have gone, but not the MPs.
I was talking to I'm sure he wouldn't mind me repeating this. I was talking to Steve Bryan yesterday. He was, you know, the Member of Parliament for Winchester for many years. It's obviously a Lib Dem seat now. And he was saying, you know, he's a centrist, One Nation Tory. He was saying that if he tried to get onto the candidates list now, he wouldn't even make the shortlist. Because there's no room for that in the Tory party anymore.
But that's right. What's the point of having a party that's such a broad church that it can't agree to? And I think that analysis, having served in the last Parliament, that analysis is absolutely right. One of the reasons that Rishi Sunak, whatever you think of him, couldn't stop the votes is because at least half the parliamentary party would never have voted for the measures that were required. That's why the government failed, is because the party was split.
And Kemi Badenoch's pulled a bit of a blinder here, hasn't she? To give her credit where it's due, she has got ahead of the story. She's scuppered Jenrick's position because, of course, he's negotiating from a place of weakness as an independent MP, not a place of strength as Shadow Justice Minister. And to give her dues, that's what you should do as party leader. So I've got to give her credit for that.
Absolutely. I think that, you know, I've been incredibly critical of her in the past. Obviously, I still think that she's a lousy leader, but I think she had no alternative, but she had to do it, and she did it well, absolutely. I think in the long term, it will actually be to her benefit.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think she had to do it, and I think what it will now do is focus everybody's mind, and I think we probably will see more defections. I think we will see a coming together of a Tory party that needs to be what it is, a Tory party, and that's what it needs to be. So back to your question about the Mail, yes, the right does need to unite. Whether it does that around a strong Conservative party or whether there is some sort of pact, I don't think we're going to see that for some time yet.
I think there's too much rancour between the parties now to see any kind of pact.
I think closer to the election, I think you might eat that comment, Jonathan.
Well, let's wait and see. Lots of time to go yet, but before then, we're going to get your 60-second news update with Sophia Wensler.
Alex, Miriam, thank you. Your headlines at 10:32. Robert Jenrick has declared that the Conservative Party broke Britain in an attack on former colleagues as he defected to Reform UK. The former Conservative Shadow Minister announced he's joining Reform hours after he was sacked by Tory leader Kemi Badenoch over what she called clear, irrefutable evidence that he was conspiring to jump ship. The Venezuelan opposition leader has given her Nobel Peace Prize medal to President Donald Trump during a meeting at the White House, calling it an historic day for Venezuela. The deadline for submitting evidence to postpone local elections has now passed, with millions of people now seeing theirs delayed. It comes as a key figure from Donald Trump's administration has criticised the UK government for cancelling local elections. And water has been restored for most homes after almost a week of supply problems across Kent and Sussex led to some 30,000 properties without water. Those are the latest GB News headlines. I'll have more news for you at the top of the hour.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Coming up next, are fast food chains the next victim to Labour's tax regime? This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Good morning, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Across western and southwestern parts it's going to be quite blustery and showery through today. Further east, a greater chance of staying mostly dry. Can't rule out a few showers pushing their way east and northeastwards as we go through the day, but most of the showers today, they're going to be in the west and southwest. And here we are likely to see some flashes of lightning, a bit of thunder mixed in, even some hail as well, and watch out for those blustery winds too. Lighter winds further east and some decent sunny spells, and temperatures around what you'd expect for the time of year, just about getting into double digits towards the south, a few degrees lower than this further north. As we go overnight, the blustery winds in the southwest, they will be easing, but we're going to see further showery outbreaks of rain making their way north and eastwards across many places. Some of them could be a little bit heavy, could even be some winteriness over northern hills. With the winds dropping out, there's going to be some low cloud around, some murkiness, some mist, some fog in places, and even where the cloud clears, well, we could get some fog patches developing there as well, and also a touch of frost in some parts too. Through Saturday itself, worth noting any mist and fog could be pretty slow to clear. Some of that low cloud could linger all day. Otherwise, there will be some brighter breaks developing here and there. A bit difficult to pinpoint exactly where they're going to occur. If you get any sunshine and don't get those showery bursts of rain, not feeling too bad for the time of year. But if you're stuck under that fog or cloud, well, it's going to feel pretty cold indeed. Again, into Sunday, there could be some fog around, and this could be quite long lasting. Also worth noting the potential for some damp weather across some central eastern parts of England, but signs as we go through into the afternoon of a bit of sunshine developing across parts of East Anglia and Kent, and also further west some sunshine breaking through across parts of Northern Ireland, Scotland and Western Wales. Temperatures similar to Saturday really, if you're stuck under the cloud, feeling pretty cold again. Bye-bye.
Thank you for making us Britain's #1 news channel. Together, we have built something truly extraordinary.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M8 junction 9 off slip is closed eastbound for planned maintenance. On the A470 northbound at Nantgarv, expect heavy congestion on the off slip. In South Tyneside, the A19 southbound between the A193 and the A185 has a broken down vehicle, with one lane closed and delays of around 30 minutes, easing by around 11:30 this morning. In Warwickshire, the M6 northbound between Junction 3 and Junction 4 has lane restrictions. And on the trains, Great Western Railway has replacement road transport between Liskeard and Looe. And Lolna reports disruption at Shipley. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Alex and Miriam. In just a moment, we'll be discussing whether fast food restaurants are next on Labour's tax list. But first,
time is ticking on your chance to win £85,000 in our biggest cash giveaway to date. That's tax-free cash to spend on anything you like this year. Make sure you don't miss out. Here are all the details you need.
There's only 2 weeks left to ensure you're in the draw to win our biggest cash prize so far. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours.
Hi, I'm Jane from Manchester. I won £54,321 with the Great British Giveaway. It is real and it does happen to everyday people like myself. And that one text has just made my life 100% better.
But you have to hurry, as lines close on Friday the 30th of January. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News week commencing 9th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, will fast fast food companies be the next victims of Labour's divisive tax regime? Well, the Leon CEO, John Vincent, has lashed out at the government as he announces plans to close 20 restaurants nationwide.
And it's not just tax hikes that are challenging the industry. Weight loss medication is leading to reduced demand, supposedly, with M&S releasing new food ranges specifically tailored for those on the fat jab.
Well, joining us now is the lifestyle commentator and former presenter of Fat Families, Steve Miller. Steve, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. What are your feelings? What are your feelings about this news that actually fast food chains are struggling because of tax rises? Is this good for the nation's waistlines or another example of Labour's tax on growth?
No, I think that, well, it's here a tax, there a tax, everywhere a tax at the moment. And if you talk to the real people on the street and the real people in my consulting room, they are struggling. So, of course, if people are having to pay more tax at this time where everything else is going up in price, including our energy bills, common sense says that people will have to cut back a bit. However, when it comes to the jabs, I don't think the jabs will destroy fast food restaurants and fast food takeaways and so forth. And there is a reason for that. And the first one actually is about the price rise of the jabs. And the latest figure I've given today is there were 122 quid a month, your fat jabs. And in some places now they're 330 quid a month. That's a lot of money. And people are struggling. And it's tight. So I don't think that the fat jab is going to close down lots of fast food restaurants. The other thing with the fat jabs as well is the education of the potential side effects is coming out much more now. People are nervous about it. And you know, side effects from obviously the vomiting and the obvious ones, but also potential thyroid cancer as well and other cancers. That's a concern. So people are getting a bit more nervous of the fat jab. So I think, you know, still having people having their sausage and egg muffin at one of our favourite fast food restaurants in the UK, I don't think the demand for those will actually decrease very much indeed.
Yeah, Steve, of course, when it comes to fat jabs, we know that many people put the weight back on once they stop using them. So a lot of this is about lifestyle as well. Is there a big education piece that needs to be done to ensure people don't put that weight back on and fall into those bad habits? Because I think a lot of people assume that the fat jabs are just a silver bullet to all of their problems.
Yeah, and I think the education piece has to be more blunt. I am fed up to the back teeth, and I say that this is someone that is pretty intelligent. I'm fed up of the back teeth of all of these fancy education programmes. We've had them for the last 20, 30 years. They have achieved nothing. What we need the Prime Minister to say is, listen, Britain, if you are a big fat pig, start taking responsibility. Start owning your body. And I tell you what, that's the sort of thing they do in South Korea. That's the sort of thing they do in Japan. And it works. Our obesity rate in the UK is in the 20s. In Japan, it's around 5-6%. They don't faff about like we do. But if people want to call that fat shaming, then so be it.
But it's not just about shaming, is it? In countries like Japan, for example, where they have private health insurance, employers are charged a lot more when their employees get a BMI higher than 22 or 23, I think, from memory. So there are serious financial disincentives for being overweight. Do you think that's a path we should go down in the UK?
Well, you're absolutely right, yes. It's metabo law, I think they call it in Japan, where every year an employee, they get their waist measured. And if they're too fat, then the employer, as I understand it, is fined, like you say. And I think what we need to do is penalise the people, actually, which ain't going to go down very well. So if you're too fat, for example, you do pay for 2 seats on an aeroplane. You do pay for 2 seats in the cinema, and we're much more, you know, and we deliver that sort of policy. And taxing food companies all the time just doesn't work. Now, I think the food tax, fat tax it was either Finland or Japan or Denmark, I can't remember, but it failed. And it increased inflation. Inflation is too high at the moment anyway. And you see, the problem with getting people to eat healthier now, I've always said that you can eat healthy on a reasonable budget. I think I'm wrong to say that now because food inflation, as you well know, has increased and people are really struggling. So yeah, I don't think we should do that. I think we should penalise the person to motivate them to make the right choices. But we need a culture developed where we are proud to say being too fat is wrong. Being too fat, you should actually take more responsibility for it. More like Ricky Gervais. He's blunt. That's what we need.
But this, Steve, very, very briefly, do you think we should bring back a shaming culture, particularly when it comes to being fat, because, of course, it is a massive health issue as well, isn't it? It's not just you're overweight and it doesn't look good. It's an underlying issue that affects the NHS and our taxes too. Yes, and I make no apology for saying it. Shame is a motivator. I'm not suggesting we run around the street shouting, "Oi, fatty bum bum, sort yourself out." That would be wrong. I agree, that would be terrible, right? But what I am saying is we've got to get more ballsy and start saying, you know, that being fat is not good. You've got all the tools. Government has educated us for years and years on this. The taxpayer has paid through the roof on this education stuff. Enough is enough. And I tell you what, but none of them will do it because they're too frit. Well, Steve, you're not going to get Keir Starmer doing that. Oh, woke on steroids, are you?
Well, I've now got visions of a public health campaign fronted by Ricky Gervais.
Brilliant, that would be fantastic. As long as we can get Steve alongside him, it would be sensational. Thank you, Steve Miller. Brilliant as ever. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on GB News.
He does have a point. Shame used to be an important feature in society, and now we are unwilling to judge anybody for any behaviour.
Soft. Too soft. We've become far too soft on too many things. I totally agree. Up next.
Well, and some quite disturbing news because the latest abortion figures have been released showing the highest number of abortions per year since the Abortion Act was introduced in 1968. We'll have more on that after the latest weather forecast.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
The weather's looking unsettled across much of southern Europe as we go through this weekend. Heavy rain affecting parts of Portugal, around the outskirts of Spain as well. Some significant snow building up over the Pyrenees. Even further east in other parts of the Mediterranean, hefty showery downpours with the risk of some thunder. And worth bearing in mind, strong gusty winds are going to lead to some rough seas as well. Staying pretty unsettled for some places as we go into next week. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get us on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 11. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Alex and Miriam.
Well, abortion figures from back in 2023 have been published showing the number of abortions at a staggering 277,000, the highest number since the introduction of the Abortion Act.
Well, the delay for the publication of the data comes following a number of supposedly operational issues, including a new data processing system and an increase in the number of paper notification forms for the government to process.
Well, what will this mean for falling birth rates? And we are now joined by Right to Life spokesman Madeleine Page. Thank you very much for joining us. This is quite stark, these numbers. We saw the chart, the graph itself is almost like a 90-degree line upwards, Madeleine. What is driving this and what does it mean for Britain?
So it's pills by post that's driving it. When you look at that graph, I was shocked as well. You see it you can see it obviously gradually increasing, and then you get to when pills by post was introduced, and practically the line just goes vertical. It just looks like it's just shooting up, absolutely devastating. And the numbers you quoted there, that's just England and Wales. So it's only England and Wales that came out today. We have Scotland already, there's now Northern Ireland. So when you add all of those in, we're talking about nearly 300,000 abortions just in 1 year. So that's like wiping out Nottingham or Hull just in 1 year. Just all of those people gone is just absolutely devastating. And as you said, it's by post. So now women don't have to go into a clinical setting. They can make a phone call and request pills by post to be sent to their home, and they have an abortion at home, sort of a DIY abortion. And this has made it much more accessible, but also I think makes women much more vulnerable as well. And that's what's led, one of the reasons that big increase is seen.
And I think what's so extraordinary about these figures is when you compare our abortion numbers to other Western European countries, very similar culturally to us, we far exceed the number of abortions per capita than anywhere else. I think we're something like 5 times the German level, double the French. What do the other countries have similar abortion regimes and legislations to the UK?
No, so we actually have the most extreme abortion law in Europe. The average in Europe is around 12 weeks, so approximately 3 months, kind of the first trimester of pregnancy, where you can have an abortion. Whereas here in the UK, it's up to 24 weeks, which is nearly 6 months for any reason at all, and then right up to birth for situations like disability. So we have a really, really liberal abortion law, which there are attempts currently to make even more liberal. So we're now looking at potentially having abortion up to birth for any reason, and that has passed through Parliament and it's now with the House of Lords. So we're looking at making it even worse. If that does pass, we would then have the most extreme abortion law in the world. And these numbers are just going to get worse. So, there are countries in Europe that, exactly as you said, culturally, liberally similar to us, but their abortion law is in line with medical science. We have babies. I've met children who were born at 22 weeks. those babies could have been aborted for another 2 weeks for any reason at all. Just
Madeline,
because that's what
Madeline,
the mother
I'm very
wanted.
sorry to interrupt you. It's such an important topic. Please come back. We're running out of time, unfortunately. Thank you for joining me and Miriam. Look, still ahead, Kemi Badenoch is joining us very shortly, and we're going to be digging in to all of that fallout from yesterday's bombshell news. That's next.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, very good day to you. This is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Quite a few showers around today, particularly across western parts, and here it's also going to be pretty blustery. That's because there is an area of low pressure currently sitting just to the west of Ireland. It's actually filling as we go through the day and becoming less intense, but nonetheless it is helping to drive some showers in across western and southwestern parts, and it's bringing some blustery winds. Those showers in the west and southwest, they could be heavy, could be some rumbles of thunder, a bit of lightning and a bit of hail, but further north and east, whilst a few showers may push through, it's looking largely dry. There'll be some sunshine around and temperatures in the south just about peaking in double figures. Further north, we're looking at highs of around 5 or 6 Celsius for many. A few of those showers will be pushing their way a bit further north and east as we go into this evening, so we could see some sleet, some hill snow over parts of Scotland, but the far northeast of Scotland staying fine with clear skies to start the night. Cloudier across Northern Ireland, some showery bursts of rain quite likely, particularly towards eastern parts. Down the eastern side of England, staying dry with clear skies, but showers continuing across some parts of Wales, central, southern and southwestern England as well, and some of them could still be quite heavy as we go through the end of the day. Overnight, there are likely to be some sways of showery rain making their way a bit further north and east, but it's a little tricky to determine exactly where they're going to be falling. Nonetheless, a chance that many of us could see a bit of rain, but those winds are dropping out as that low pressure fills, and so whilst there could be quite a lot of low clouds, temperatures maybe not getting too low, watch out because there will be some murkiness, some mist and fog, particularly around some eastern parts first thing on Saturday morning. Otherwise, through Saturday, showery bursts, rain here and there. None of it looks especially heavy, and many of us will actually avoid it and stay largely dry. That cloud in the east could linger through much of the day, so staying pretty cold under it here, but elsewhere a bit of sunshine breaking through.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 3 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to make 2026 the year of yes. That's yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to making all of those dreams come true this year. Just make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 11 a.m. on Friday the 16th of January. We are live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Alex and Miriam, and what a show we've got lined up for you.
This is the latest Christmas present I've ever had. And on that note, I will welcome Robert Jenrick into this room and into Reform UK.
Well, that was the bombshell news yesterday that Robert Jenrick has defected to Reform UK. This was after the Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch fired him as Shadow Justice Secretary after his plans were leaked.
I was very sorry to be presented with clear, irrefutable evidence, not just that he was preparing to defect, but he was planning to do so in the most damaging way possible to the Conservative Party and his shadow cabinet colleagues.
Who's responsible for all of this chaos? Is it a political spy story? Was it a mole, or was it as simple as leaving papers around? Well, Kemi will be joining us shortly, but one thing is for certain, she seems rather happy with her decision.
And all I would say to Nigel is, Rob's not my problem anymore, he's your problem now.
But I must declare today that the Chief Constable of West Midlands Police no longer has my confidence.
Well, perhaps the man most grateful for the media storm that Robert Jenrick created yesterday was the defiant West Midlands Chief Constable, who refuses to quit, despite admitting he lied to block Israeli football fans from attending a football match in November. But will he finally resign today?
And the deadline for submitting evidence to postpone local elections has now passed, with millions of people now seeing their local elections being delayed.
And in just a few minutes' time, we will be speaking to the Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch. So we'd love to hear your views, your comments. Send them to gbnews.com/yoursay.
Well, up first is your news with Sophia Wensler.
Alex, Miriam, thank you and good morning. Your headlines at 2 minutes past 11. Robert Jenrick has declared that the Conservative Party broke Britain in an attack on former colleagues as he defected to Reform UK. The former Conservative shadow minister announced he was joining Reform just hours after he was sacked by Tory leader Kemi Badenoch over what she called clear and irrefutable evidence that he was conspiring to jump ship. Speaking at a press conference alongside Nigel Farage, Mr Jenrick called his former party rotten, dishonest and no longer fit for purpose. Nick Timothy, the new Shadow Justice Secretary, said he did not recognise the Tory party that Mr Jenrick had described.
One of the things about yesterday that I think was really important was the contrast between Kemi's leadership as somebody who acted decisively and takes very seriously those challenges, and the sense of backbiting and backstabbing and the lack of seriousness that we see in too many politicians.
In other news, the Venezuelan opposition leader has given her Nobel Peace Prize medal to President Donald Trump during a meeting at the White House. Maria Corina Machado says it was of a recognition of his commitment to her country's freedom, calling it an historic day for Venezuelans. Mr Trump expressed his gratitude in a social media post, saying the move was a wonderful gesture of mutual respect. However, the US president stopped short of endorsing Machado as Venezuela's new leader, instead dealing with the acting head of state in Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, Maduro's former vice president. Now, a lone British soldier has been sent to Greenland as NATO allies have begun deploying military to the territory as diplomatic efforts in Washington collapsed over President Trump's demands to take control of it. The White House, however, has said the deployment of European troops in Greenland doesn't alter US President Donald Trump's plans to get his hands on the Arctic island. Meanwhile, France has warned that the US that any move to seize Greenland would amount to a crossed line, endangering Europe's economic relationship with Washington. And the number of abortions being carried out in England and Wales has hit a record high. There were 277,970 terminations in 2023. That's up 11% from 2022, according to figures published by the Department of Health. It's the highest number since the introduction of the Abortion Act and comes at a time when birth rates are at their lowest since 1977. Taking pills at home is the most common method of abortion, making up 72% of the total. However, the number of surgical abortions has also increased in both 2022 and 2023. Those are your latest GB News headlines. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
And here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3401 and 1.1544 euros. The price of gold is £3,433 and 34 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100's at 1,024 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Well, it's a big day for politics after Robert Jenrick, the former Shadow Justice Secretary, defected to Reform UK.
Well, the news might not have broken quite in the way that Nigel Farage had planned, and neither was Reform's announcement of Jenrick's defection exactly a smooth operation.
Changed his mind, has he? We can't find him. Do we play music now, or what do we do? No.
Well, after that brief interlude there, Jenrick did appear, and he had, we didn't mince his words, did he?
Is Britain broken? I said instinctively, it's broken. Almost everyone said, it's not broken. And we were told, that is the party line. A few had a third position. It is broken, but we can't say so, because the Conservative Party broke it.
Well, speaking to GB News earlier today, the new Shadow Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick's replacement, called Nick Timothy, well, he claimed that it was evidence that Kemi Badenoch is a serious leader.
And actually, one of the things about yesterday that I think was really important was the contrast between Kemi's leadership as somebody who acted decisively and takes very seriously those challenges, and the sense of backbiting and backstabbing.
We're now joined by our political editor, Christopher Hobe. Chris, this can't be understated, can it? The scale of the fallout here for the Conservative Party, with a lot of Jenrick's supporters now sort of on this decision whether to leave the party and join Reform or stay loyal to the Tories. What do you expect the fallout to be, Christopher?
Well, yes, it will be strong, I think. There's a few things happening in the Tory party. I'll draw your attention to remarks by Esther McVeigh. She, of course, is a former cabinet minister, a member of Kemi Badenoch's team. She's told The Express it was a strange move to force the pace on this with Robert Jenrick. She would have advised Kemi Badenoch not to have done this. So when you speak to Kemi Badenoch, I would suggest asking her, have you created a problem that wasn't there? We heard yesterday from Nigel Farage, who thought that Robert Jenrick was only really 60% likely to come across to Reform UK. And in fact, Farage says he would buy Kemi Badenoch a drink now for forcing the pace on that defection. Of course, Robert Jenrick says he was going to come anyway, but the timing was driven by Kemi Badenoch. Was that a mistake? Worth asking her that, because that's what Esther McVeigh has suggested in The Express. But all eyes really now on who might come next. Robert forgive me, Nigel Farage has said he's got the drawbridge open until March the 7th. After that, he pulls it up, and no one else from the Tory party can join the Reform UK castle. Names in the frame listed on GB News' website are people like Suella Braverman, of course, the former Home Secretary, Alison Rosendale, Sir John Hayes, and others. We'll wait and see how that plays out.
Well, Christopher Hope, thank you very much for that analysis there. Well, we are now joined by the Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch. We do understand there is a 2-second delay on the line, but good morning, Kemi. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Miriam. I'm sorry it's not a very good line, but I think I can just about hear you.
Brilliant. Well, first of all, it must have been a very difficult day for you personally yesterday, and the Conservative Party as well, of course. In your video that you released, you mentioned some irrefutable evidence that proved to you that Robert Jenrick was about to defect. Can you describe to us what that evidence was? Because there's been a lot of conflicting speculation online.
Yes, the conflicting speculation is happening because a lot of people don't know what they're talking about. The best evidence was the fact that when Nigel Farage was asked, he said, yes, we've been in talks. And the even better evidence was Robert Jenrick actually doing what I said he was planning to do a few hours later.
Kemi, Robert Jenrick in his defection speech yesterday was quite scathing about the Conservative Party. He points to a shadow cabinet meeting perhaps a week ago where he said your shadow cabinet was unable to say Britain was broken because effectively that would be an admission that you broke it. Can you dispel that rumour now and tell our audience that you believe Britain is broken, or do you agree with Jenrick's assessment?
Actually, what I can tell your audience is that it's quite clear that Robert Jenrick tells a lot of lies, and you can't believe a word that comes out of his mouth. This is a man who was asked yesterday morning, are you going to defect? And he said never to the Chief Whip when we found evidence of the speeches he was going to give. And why has all this happened? Because he's fallen out with people, and those people have brought stuff to us. And I won't say much more than that. But the truth is that this is someone who gave a speech yesterday complaining about things that were already there when he was standing to be leader. This man said, I want to be leader of the Conservative Party. All of the things that he said yesterday would still have applied. Is leaving because he doesn't think that he can be leader. And I think that as the actual leader, the person who beat him decisively in the leadership election, my duty is to the Conservative Party members, to our MPs, to our shadow cabinet, and make sure that they're looked after. People from Reform and other Conservative Party members have been bringing stuff to me about the actions he'd been doing to undermine the party, and I kept giving him a chance. So I'm just glad that Nigel Farage is doing my spring cleaning for me. He's taking away my problems. The Conservative Party is even more strong, even more united and stronger, because we've lost someone who was not a team player.
Obviously, those things are very important in Parliament and in Westminster. But as far as the country is concerned, perhaps the wider...
I can't hear anything.
Can you hear me now, Kemi? Okay. Sorry, it's a very difficult line. Now, the things that you've mentioned are obviously important factors in the workings of Parliament and in the wider Westminster bubble. But as far as the wider country is concerned,
I've lost you again.
I think, unfortunately, we have... The line is not
a little broken. Kemi, can you hear us any better now? No, we'll wait to get hopefully come back to Kemi if we can get her back on the line. Interesting though, when I was asking her if I've got Kemi. No, unfortunately she can't join us. Interesting when I was asking about dispelling that rumour, she said that Robert Jenrick's a liar, but she had a good opportunity there to say Britain is broken, and that's a complete falsification that Jenrick's
I think her line was broken. We can conclude that. Well, we can now go to Reform MP, former Conservative MP, Danny Kruger, MP for East Wiltshire, who joins us now. Danny, good morning. Thank you so much for joining the show. It was very interesting to watch Robert Jenrick's defection speech yesterday, obviously different from your own in many ways. But one thing that did strike me was that both you and he spoke about the primary importance of politics being loyalty to the country, that this was a decision being made because you both thought that the best hope for turning this country around was Reform UK. Did you recognise that reflection of your own in Robert's speech?
Yes, and Robert and I have been discussing this point a lot recently. I mean, on a personal level, and what you were just discussing with Kemi, understandably, it's painful. It's painful to leave one tribe that you've worked with for many years and join another. But you do have to, in this game, I believe, try and think what we're really here for, which is to serve our constituents in the country. And when you've concluded that the group you're with cannot do that, through a combination of historic faults and the current inability to connect with the country, then the only thing to do, if there is a alternative, is to move to that new party, which Robert and I have both done. And I have great sympathy with Kemi and with the colleagues that we both left behind, but I'm afraid they should do the same thing. They need to recognise that the Conservative Party cannot deliver conservatism. It cannot deliver the sort of change that we on the right of politics all believe in. Nigel Farage can. He's proved that he's got the resilience and the sustained commitment to this cause. So he is the man we all need to get behind now.
Danny, there's a lot of accusations, of course, and you must have heard this a billion times over the last 24 hours, that you are becoming the new Conservative Party by default, sucking up all these MPs. You're accused of all being failed Tories. Are you a failed Tory, Danny?
Well, maybe. I mean, the Tory party failed, that's for sure. So we've all got to share responsibility for that. I mean, you know, I hope not. I mean, I'm a relatively new MP. Miriam and I were elected together in 2019 on a manifesto of change and a real belief that we could rescue the country from the failures of the previous 20 years of Blair and Cameron. And unfortunately, the Conservative Party of Boris and Rishi let the country down and let us down. So I concluded that it was right to move. And in terms of Reform becoming a new Conservative Party, I mean, Miriam and I tried to make the old Conservative Party the new Conservative Party. That was our slogan. We wanted renewal. The Reform Party is now the party that I always hoped the Conservatives would be. Serious, radical, but ultimately about restoring the proper basis of parliamentary democracy in our country, making ministers properly accountable for what the government does, bringing back power to Parliament and to Number 10, taking it away from the quangos, the judges, the civil servants, and putting British people first and reflecting the common sense values of the people. So that's what I've always believed in. I'm just very sorry that the Conservative Party failed to be that party. Reform is it. And if that includes a lot of people coming from Conservatives to Reform, well, that reflects the trend that I think has to happen. We need those voters to shift, and if MPs shift too, well, all the better.
Well, Danny, one of the questions that's being asked by our viewers this morning and some political commentators is Robert Jenrick's conversion to conservatism real? Certainly he was or seemed to be a supporter of that kind of Cameroon politics, and yet in recent years he seems to have become much more socially conservative, much more concerned about immigration. You know him well. Is that conversion a real thing or for political reasons?
I think it's real, and what Rob has done is gone on the journey that many voters have gone on, from a belief in essentially in sort of political centrism, in good government from the centre right, which was where David Cameron was, to recognising that that model failed and the world has moved on. And in the world that we live in now, transformed by technology, by external threats, by cultural change, and I'm afraid to say by the consequences of failure by Conservative governments, then the centre ground, the middle ground, the sensible, commonplace position in politics is now well to the right of where it was 10 years ago. So he's gone on that journey. Many of us have. I worked for David Cameron many years ago. I mean, I've always been a social conservative and a Brexiteer, but you know, I too believed that David Cameron's approach to politics, sensible, moderate, decent, was right. And I still think that tone and that style is good. But the politics, I'm afraid, of the Cameron era have failed. You know, high immigration, commitment to the European Union, a sort of globalist foreign policy. These are not the positions that will serve our country in this decade and the next. So,
Danny, can I ask you, what is Reform doing to ensure it doesn't become the same party? There's very fair criticism that you've taken on board Nedahim Zahawi recently, who is, you know, let's put it this way, it didn't go down very well with the Reform base at all. You've now taken Robert Jenrick, who is much more popular within the party base, let's be real. But how can you? What guarantees is reform giving? We even hear the Zia Youssef being mentioned yesterday by Nigel Farage as someone who's not very happy at all about these defections. What guarantees can you give us?
Well, there's a couple of things. One is it's not just Conservatives who are joining us. We're getting huge numbers of defections at council level, and of course activists and voters and members from the other parties. We are winning support. We won a council seat last night from the Liberal Democrats. We're getting defections from the Greens, for goodness sake. Next week we're told there's a
Danny,
Labour.
Is that a good thing? Is that a good thing?
A Labour commitment. Well, hang on. What are you challenging me on? We're not the Conservative Party.
You're getting people coming from Labour and the Green Party. Is that a positive thing? Because surely they don't share all of your political ideology with you. We've seen how the broad church of the Conservative Party failed it multiple times. Are you just rebuilding that broad church?
What we are not doing is rebuilding the Conservative Party. We are bringing support in from across the political spectrum among people who have realised that the old parties don't work and that what we need is a patriotic, common sense party led by Nigel Farage. He is uniting people in a way that you need to win power in this country. You can't just sit in a small corner of the electorate. But the good thing is they know what they're getting with Nigel Farage. And that's the other thing. We have people like Zia Youssef as well, proper radicals, who really, I'm afraid to say, despise the Tory party. They had to be convinced that I was a good thing, convinced that was a good thing. And so you have an absolute commitment to the base of the reform movement that Nigel Farage represents, but we are winning support from across the spectrum, and that is what you need to do if you're to be a national party that can actually win power.
Now, Danny, one of the things that you have said and Robert Jenrick said yesterday is that there's only room for one party on the right. Clearly, your hope, Nigel Farage's hope, is that that will become Reform UK, that it will go up in the polls, that the Conservatives will go down. But what will you do if 6 months out from the next election there is still a split, perhaps 10 points separating the parties as there is now, and the fear will be that the vote on the right, the patriotic vote, will be split and let the left back into government? Will there be any pact at that point?
Listen, to suggest a pact is very, very unhelpful, and I don't think it's the right approach at all. The way to unite the right is for people to back the party that can win, and that is reform. So painful as it is, and I recognise that pain because I went through it, you have to look this problem straight in the face and think, how do we win power on the right in politics? That is by getting behind the front runner, and that is reform. And by the way, reform is the front runner for a good reason, because it is not tainted by the failures of the Conservative Party. So you need to put aside, nostalgic, romantic attachment to the old brand of the Conservative Party, which, by the way, itself changes every couple of generations. The Conservative Party is a very old political movement, but as a party, it began in the 20th century. Its predecessor began in the 19th century. Another one before that in the 18th century. The Reform Party is the latest emanation of the right in politics. It's the latest vehicle for this patriotic, common sense, centre-right idea. And people who are conservative-minded should back us if they want to defeat Labour. That is the way to unite the right. And pacts between parties are not going to do it.
Danny, very, very brief last question, if you don't mind. Would you back Robert Jenrick for future leader of Reform UK?
Well, the great thing about our party is there is no leadership question. Thank the Lord. That's what is weakening the Conservatives and Labour all the time. Everybody knows who the boss is here. It's Nigel Farage. He's extremely fit and healthy, and he's going to carry on being the leader, I hope, for a very long time. And he's the Prime Minister we're all getting behind.
So not a no.
There's no vacancy.
Got it. That'll do.
Danny Kruger, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, guys.
Fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it's great fun, isn't it? It's great fun. Sorry we couldn't bring you longer with Kemi Badenoch there. Unfortunately, bad signal. What can we do? Up next, though, after Venezuela's Machado gave her Nobel Peace Prize to President Trump, she might be in a spot of bother from a committee.
Well, we'll be going through that and more with Dr. Renee Honderkamp and Jonathan Liss. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. We're already arguing here, aren't we? Haven't even started the show. We're having a warm-up row. Jonathan Lith versus Miriam and Kate. Of course, Jonathan's here causing trouble. We've also got Doctor
in the pink corner.
In the pink corner. It's very fluorescent, that one. It's very fluorescent.
Shocking.
Yes, it is. Yes, that's just you.
Like your views.
And we've got beautiful Dr. Renee Honterkamp here.
Thank you. That's shocking.
What should we talk about? What should we talk about?
It's about Maria Corina Machado.
Yes, let's talk about that. What do you make of her giving her award to Donald Trump?
Well, as far as I can see, Alex, there's only one thing more pathetic and embarrassing and desperate than giving Trump the award, and that's Trump receiving it and accepting it. This is so heartbreakingly embarrassing for everyone. Look, you cannot transfer the Nobel Peace Prize to somebody, and if you try to, it's like giving a 5-year-old, if you like winning the FA Cup and then giving it to a 5-year-old. The 5-year-old hasn't won the FA Cup. The 5-year-old's probably going to be really pleased to be holding the FA Cup. It doesn't mean that he's won it. And for someone like Trump, I think it just reveals so much of his ego, first of all, that he just will take anything that people give to him, and it doesn't care the fact that he hasn't actually been bestowed it. He owns it. It's about property. And I can't understand why people don't see the total fragile ego of this man. I think here's a man with some personality defects right now, but also there's a bigger political problem here, which is that Machado, whatever you think of her, she seems to, she won the election in Venezuela. She, obviously, I completely object to what happened with the Americans in Venezuela, but you would think that she has a claim to be running Venezuela. But Trump is not interested in democracy, he's interested in oil, and that's why he was very happy to install Delcy Rodriguez, Maduro's deputy, as the president of Venezuela.
You can't have elections immediately after removing a dictator.
But the point is, he doesn't care about that stuff, and he threw her on...
You can't just say that, Jonathan. You can't just come up... You're just making assumptions.
He threw Machado under the bus in the press conference by saying she's a nice lady.
She's not ready yet to govern.
She doesn't have the respect. She won the election, apparently. That's what Observer said. So if she doesn't have the respect to, then who does? And so Machado is obviously very wounded by this and thinks the way to get what she wants is by flattering Trump and appealing to this deeply fragile, pathetic ego. Okay. And that's why she's done it. I think it's really sad.
This is a very hard thing for me to say, but there isn't much about what Jonathan Lith in the pink jumper just said that I disagree with. Actually, I do agree with all of that. However...
Too many lefties on this show today, that's what I'm hearing.
No, but I'm going to say this. We know what Trump is, and we do know that he is ruled by his ego. So he is the leader of the most powerful country in the world. I'm afraid if that's the way that he works, if you want to do anything or achieve anything, you've got to play to it. I found it a little bit squirming to watch her actually just grovel and give away her medal to him. I did. And I do think it is very unfair that a woman who did win the election in Venezuela is now not in power, and there certainly should be a pathway for her to take power because the people clearly do.
Did you squirm when Keir Starmer gave his letter to the King, Jonathan?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. I thought that was pathetic and embarrassing as well.
But again,
it turned out to be the wrong decision, Alex, because we haven't got anything that we wanted out of it.
But again, play into the ego.
But this is a problem, isn't it? I mean, look, I understand why she's done it. If you say in terms of pure realpolitik, she wants something, she knows the way that she might get it. I don't think that she'll get it, by the way, because Trump does not seem interested in that side of things at all. At least Bush had the pretense of caring about democracy when he went on his imperial sort of, rampages. But, I understand why people are doing it, why the FIFA awards have made up a prize to give to him.
No, I don't
because they think that they think that they can get what they want by appealing to his ego, and because he is basically a 5-year-old in an 80-year-old's body, he's very receptive to that. If you do flatter him, you get what you want with him often.
I mean, he's certainly unpredictable, and one criticism of Trump is that he came into office promising no more forever wars, no more America getting involved in other people's problems. But actually, the military interventions that he has risked have been quite clean in terms of there's been a beginning, a middle and an end, and America has gone in and come out. And do you think that's why he is hesitating over Iran? Because actually there's very little he can do that doesn't have long-term consequences for America.
Because you're not going to be able to intervene in a country with, how many, 90 million people, and just swoop in, take out the Ayatollahs and everything is rosy. He can't do that. So I think you're absolutely right, and I think that he was advised very clearly. I think when he goes in, does something, comes out, that's OK with his MAGA base.
Yeah, well,
I just want to briefly talk about abortion rates. I don't know if you guys have seen the latest data on this stuff, but it is staggeringly high. Jonathan, have we made it too easy for people to get abortions?
No, I don't think so. This is a story, I think, about the cost of living crisis. And
nothing to do with pills being in the post now.
No, I don't think so, Alex. Look,
the numbers did shoot up when pills by post.
I think it's gone up by 11%.
In 1 year.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's good, and I think that we have to accept that the majority of women who get abortions aren't thrilled about it. I don't think it's wrong when you say sort of people are pro-abortion. Very few people are pro-abortion. No one likes abortion.
They're pro the right to abortion.
They're pro the right to abortion, absolutely, and that is something I will defend always. And you have a very, very unforgiving economic climate in this country, as you know. Having a child is not just for Christmas. It's a lifelong endeavour. It's incredibly expensive. You have to be ready for it. A lot of people aren't, particularly when they feel so insecure financially, and that's why these things are happening.
OK, so firstly, there is no evidence to say why these women are actually choosing this pill now. There's no evidence to say that it is because of the cost of living crisis. Women have had babies, many of them, in years gone by when they have lived in the most awful poverty, but they carry on having babies. Now, I think it's the analogy, I think, to the cost of living crisis is really interesting. And this is why I said to you before the break, if you put a food bank on every single street in this country, it would be used and all the food would go because it's free food. When you make things easier, people use it. So those food banks wouldn't suddenly be being used because there is an increase in poverty. It's because of ease of access. The same is true of the abortion pill. Yes, there is a problem with our sexual health services, but you can still buy condoms in every shop on the high street. Contraceptive is accessible for everybody somehow. Now, I think that we do need to look at this, and I do think we need to look at who is using this, what demographic, what cultures are using it, because I promise you, the women that stay at home with their kids are not using abortion pills, like the women who are going to work. So there are lots of things that are feeding into this. I said to you that I have changed my mind on this dramatically. I used to be absolutely hardcore on abortion, that it should be available to term for women if that's what they want, it's their bodies, don't get involved. I don't feel like that anymore, because I think women are doing things that they may later regret. And most women that I meet really, really do regret abortions, and we should be helping them.
I think I completely agree with you that we should be helping women to make the choices that are right for them. And for some women, for whatever reason, they feel that they cannot or do not want to carry their baby to term, and we offer abortion with guardrails and limits.
But
I'm not saying we
nowhere near the guardrails that the vast majority of other Western countries offer, and I think that is the problem. And I also think the problem is we talk about this as an individual issue, which it is in some ways, but when you are losing 300,000 potential citizens a year, and our birth rate is a third lower than it needs to be to sustain our population, it's a problem for all of us.
Well, also, we've got record amounts of British people leaving Britain too. This is a recipe for absolute disaster for our country, and if you care about immigration, you need to care about.
Well, we're going to have negative net migration, which you should be thrilled about, Alex.
Well, not because it's only going to be negative because British people are leaving, and I don't want them to leave this country because it's so terrible here.
The most killer stat I've seen on this is that since 1968, there have been 10.7 million abortions. There are now 10.9 million foreign nationals living in the country.
There you go. Says it all, doesn't it? Here's your 60-second news update with Sophia Wensler.
Miriam, Alex, thank you. Your headlines at 11:34. Robert Jenrick has declared that the Conservative Party broke Britain in an attack on former colleagues as he defected to Reform UK. The former Conservative Shadow Minister announced he was joining Reform hours after he was sacked by the Tory leader over what she called clear, irrefutable evidence that he was conspiring to jump ship. Some breaking news now. An employment tribunal in Newcastle has found that 8 Darlington nurses who complained about a trans colleague using single-sex changing rooms at work suffered harassment, with the effect of violating the dignity of the claimants and creating a hostile, intimidating, humiliating and degrading environment for them. The Venezuelan opposition leader has given her Nobel Peace Prize medal to President Donald Trump during a meeting at the White House, calling it an historic day for Venezuelans. The deadline for submitting evidence to postpone local elections has now passed, with millions of people now seeing theirs delayed. It comes as a key figure from Donald Trump's administration has criticised the UK government for cancelling local elections. And water has been restored for most homes after almost a week of supply problems across Kent and Sussex led to some 30,000 properties without water. Those are your latest GB News headlines. I'll have more news for you at the top of the hour.
Well, look who's here. It's Good Afternoon Britain. Tom and Dawn, welcome to the show.
It's always a pleasure.
And you've got some interesting stuff to tell us, haven't you two?
I do indeed. Before we get to our programme, I just have to say that the man of the moment, Robert Jenrick, has written exclusively for GB News. GBnews.com. If people watching want to hear what Robert Jenrick is saying specifically for GB News viewers and listeners, that's on the website right now. It's just been published in the last minute or so. And Jenrick himself has a pitch to people that watch and listen to GB News. He wants all of them to listen to his case to join the Reform Party.
Interesting. Very interesting. We, of course, had Kemi Badenoch on earlier today, who was calling him a liar. And, you know, we asked about Broken Britain. Unfortunately, the line wasn't very good, but quite strong words coming from Kemi Badenoch today.
But don't you think all the words about this situation are incredibly strong?
Yes.
And there's a lot of anger toward Robert Jenrick in particular. I mean, there's no positive headlines about him. It's very interesting as to how the newspapers are interpreting what happened yesterday.
But I think it's interesting. There's a difference between how Westminster will interpret this, and in some ways it's been a feeding frenzy at the Westminster Zoo, hasn't it? So many different personalities to write about. But what will be the long-term impacts for politics at large, for people at home? And I think the jury's still out as to whether or not the reform rise will continue. But if it does, it will become perhaps the only party on the right.
And now, of course, there's a deadline. A deadline for current Conservative MPs, a deadline for former Conservative MPs. A deadline for people that might be seen to be reform adjacent or on the right of the Conservative Party. Miriam, I've got a question for you.
I'm a news presenter.
You're a news presenter now. Would you consider re-entering the world of politics?
I honestly don't know, Tom. I honestly don't know. I mean, it is a real privilege being an MP. There's many good things about it, but it's a really tough gig. And I do actually think, you know, of course, on this channel, on other news channels, we criticise MPs, rightly so, we're a democracy. But I think we really underestimate how much MPs give to the job. And we were having a conversation about personal ambition with the panel. In fact, I think it's before we went on air, had a quite heated discussion. And I actually think it's really wrong to criticise MPs for having personal ambition.
Absolutely
I think
right.
if you don't have personal ambition, there is absolutely no way you will take the kind of risks that you need to go into politics where everything about your life and your family life is going to be scrutinised, where you're going to be accused of things you've never done, where everything, you know, it is a horrible, horribly vulnerable place to be. If you don't have personal ambition, what's going to carry you through that?
She's very good at this, isn't she?
But also, it just smacks of the sort of duplicity of so many MPs, where clearly half the people in there want to be Prime Minister. Clearly half the...
Give us 5 seconds.
And then when someone asks, you want to be, no, I'm just humbly serving my role as junior minister for paperclips. I want to go no further in this life.
Politics.
Like, oh, come on. And then that just feeds into the publicity.
I've got 3 hours of
Give me 5 seconds. 5 seconds, what are you going to do? 5 seconds?
More of Tom's.
More of this. Right, more of that. All right.
Board, please.
All that coming up at midday. Up next, the government is under fire after announcing plans to keep gender policies despite concerns that it infringes upon the Supreme Court ruling. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello again, very good day to you. This is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Quite a few showers around today, particularly across western parts, and here it's also going to be pretty blustery. That's because there is an area of low pressure currently sitting just to the west of Ireland. It's actually filling as we go through the day and becoming less intense, but nonetheless it is helping to drive some showers in across western and southwestern parts, and it's bringing some blustery winds. Those showers in the west and southwest, they could be heavy, could be some rumbles of thunder, a bit of lightning and a bit of hail, but further north and east, whilst a few showers may push through, it's looking largely dry. There'll be some sunshine around and temperatures in the south just about peaking in double figures. Further north, we're looking at highs of around 5 or 6 Celsius for many. A few of those showers will be pushing their way a bit further north and east as we go into this evening, so we could see some sleet, some hill snow over parts of Scotland, but the far northeast of Scotland staying fine with clear skies to start the night. Cloudier across Northern Ireland, some showery bursts of rain quite likely, particularly towards eastern parts. Down the eastern side of England, staying dry with clear skies, but showers continuing across some parts of Wales, central, southern and southwestern England as well, and some of them could still be quite heavy as we go through the end of the day. Overnight, there are likely to be some sways of showery rain making their way a bit further north and east, but it's a little tricky to determine exactly where they're going to be falling. Nonetheless, a chance that many of us could see a bit of rain, but those winds are dropping out as that low pressure fills, and so whilst there could be quite a lot of low clouds, the temperatures maybe not getting too low, watch out because there will be some murkiness, some mist and fog, particularly around some eastern parts first thing on Saturday morning. Otherwise, through Saturday, showery bursts, rain here and there, none of it looks especially heavy, and many of us will actually avoid it and stay largely dry. That cloud in the east could linger through much of the day, so staying pretty cold under it here, but elsewhere a bit of sunshine breaking through.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 18 minutes to 12. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Alex and Miriam.
Well, the government is currently under fire after announcing plans to keep gender policies in spite of concerns that it infringes upon that huge Supreme Court ruling in April 2025.
Well, the charity Sex Matters have criticised the decision, saying it's a misunderstanding of the Equality Act.
Well, Chief Executive of Sex Matters, Maya Forstater, joins us now. Maya, pleasure to have you on the show as ever. Why is the government still hanging on to this? I mean, as far as the Supreme Court ruling goes, it was pretty clear-cut. What's the hold-up?
I think they're frozen in the headlights. They're saying on one hand that they won't sign off on the new guidance from the Equality and Human Rights Commission, and on the other hand, they're waiting for the new guidance in order to bring their own policies into line. And their responsibilities to their employees they're in place now. There's no reason to wait. There's no excuse for waiting. And just this morning, we heard that the Darlington nurses had won their case against the National Health Service in the hospital in Darlington that allowed a man into the women's changing rooms at work, which is exactly what the civil service policy also allows.
Now, Mayor, back when the Supreme Court made that judgment, certainly a lot of people who you and I are both aligned with in the gender-critical cause thought that this was finally the line in the sand, that from now on, sensible policies would ensue, we'd get back to the meaning of the law and reality. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened, or not entirely. Why do you think that is?
Because you have to say no. You have to say no to a trans-identifying man who wants to use the women's toilets. And for the past 10 years, all government departments have been giving themselves pats on the back for saying yes. And now they have to say no. And you have to say no a lot of the time at work. You have to say, no smoking in the building, no putting chairs in front of the fire escape. It shouldn't be difficult to say no to employees when they're doing something that is unlawful and puts other employees at risk. But for some reason, this group of people have been made to be a caste that cannot be criticised or said no to, and so they're stuck. They've been patting themselves on the back for the past 10 years, saying that the good thing to do is to, what they say, be trans inclusive, and now they need to turn around and say, we have facilities for everyone, but the rules are clear. You go into the facilities for your sex or the unisex.
And Maya, is it the case that Labour is just ideologically captured by this? And it is interesting to see that I think they've adopted this policy in their own party, so even in their own women's events, for example, they've adopted it. But what's the hesitation in the rollout countrywide? It doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, it's not just the Labour Party didn't cause this problem. This has been embedded in government, in the civil service for over a decade now, and the same people who were celebrated for bringing these policies in and for implementing them are still in post. So it's not party political. It is the law, and turning around big institutions is difficult and it takes courage. And I will say, I don't think there is courage at the top of this government.
Maya, can we ever go back to the day before the transgender ideology infiltrated public policy? Can we go back to the day where which toilets you use is entirely self-policing, that there is general consensus amongst the population about how we do this without involving the law?
I think we have to. And people think, oh, toilets, it's not that important. But this is also about safeguarding. It's about recording what sex children and adults are when they are in situations where an adult is looking after a child, whether that's a teacher, whether it's a nurse, whether it's a scout leader. These are all situations where we've had years and years of lessons about that people will misuse situations of trust, and that you have to be truthful, you have to keep good records. So,
Maya, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Maya, but we have unfortunately run out of time. But thank you so much for joining us this morning. Please come back on soon. Still to come, we can reveal the royal family's favorability trackers, but first, let's get your weather.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
The weather's looking unsettled across much of southern Europe as we go through this weekend. Heavy rain affecting parts of Portugal, around the outskirts of Spain as well. Some significant snow building up over the Pyrenees. Even further east in other parts of the Mediterranean, hefty showery downpours with the risk of some thunder. And worth bearing in mind, strong gusty winds are going to lead to some rough seas as well. Staying pretty unsettled for some places as we go into next week. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet, or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word. Welcome back. Royal correspondent Cameron Walker's here now, and he's talking about this new favorability tracker. Cameron.
Yes, we do. YouGov have released the latest favorability for January 2025 for the royal family. Let's do the positives first. The Prince William. Prince William is the most popular member of the royal family with the British public, a favorability rating of 77%, followed closely by his wife, the Princess of Wales, on 74%. Princess Anne was number 3, then King Charles was number 4. Now, interestingly, both Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, and Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor have had their lowest ever recorded favourability rating with the British public. Meghan was on 19% positive with a 66% negative favourability rating. Andrew, I can't believe this, but well, I can believe this actually, but only 3% positivity rating with the British public. Of course, he's going to be kicked out very shortly of Royal Lodge to move to the Sandringham estate. But interestingly, although 64% want the UK to continue to have a monarchy, only half of the country think it's good value for money at the moment. Of course, it costs tens of millions of pounds a year, over 500 full-time staff funded by the sovereign grant, according to the latest report. You know, it's funded by British taxpayers, essentially, through the sovereign grant. William and Charles have both come under heavy criticism last year in particular about the way the duchies are run. For example, there was the feudal leasehold agreement where people who own their own property didn't have the right to own the freehold on that property until William changed it last year following criticism. And of course, he is paying or charging the NHS, the Ministry of Defence, schools, etc., rent on the land he owns through the Duchy of Cornwall. William is looking into the rental agreements, particularly of grassroots organisations and charities. But I suspect when he becomes king, he's going to make some fundamental changes to the way the monarchy is perhaps run in terms of cost effectiveness. But I can assure you, or I've been assured anyway, that he does plan to have a coronation. He does plan to continue trooping the colour in those big staple events. But I think there'll be some cost saving going on.
I mean, Alex, it is easy to add up the costs of the monarchy, but it's much harder to put a price on their value, their cultural value, their historic value. I don't think we should be measuring it in pounds and pence, personally.
Thank you, Cameron. That was really interesting.
Yeah.
Not surprising, but interesting indeed. Well, that's it from Britain's newsroom. Up next, Good Afternoon Britain's coming up, and Tom and Dawn are going to take you through some of that very interesting new lines from Robert Jenrick. But
You'll be back throughout the weekend?
I will. I'll
back
be here
tonight
9
and
o'clock.
Monday.
Yeah, 9 o'clock.
Can't get rid of us.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, very good day to you. This is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Quite a few showers around today, particularly across western parts, and here it's also going to be pretty blustery. That's because there is an area of low pressure currently sitting just to the west of Ireland. It's actually filling as we go through the day and becoming less intense, but nonetheless it is helping to drive some showers in across western and southwestern parts, and it's bringing some blustery winds. Those showers in the west and southwest, they could be heavy, could be some rumbles of thunder, a bit of lightning and a bit of hail, but further north and east, whilst a few showers may push through, it's looking largely dry. There'll be some sunshine around and temperatures in the south just about peaking in double figures. Further north, we're looking at highs of around 5 or 6 Celsius for many. A few of those showers will be pushing their way a bit further north and east as we go into this evening, so we could see some sleet, some hill snow over parts of Scotland, but the far northeast of Scotland staying fine with clear skies to start the night. Cloudier across Northern Ireland, some showery bursts of rain quite likely, particularly towards eastern parts. Down the eastern side of England, staying dry with clear skies, but showers continuing across some parts of Wales, central, southern and southwestern England as well, and some of them could still be quite heavy as we go through the end of the day. Overnight, there are likely to be some sways of showery rain making their way a bit further north and east, but it's a little tricky to determine exactly where they're going to be falling. Nonetheless, a chance that many of us could see a bit of rain, but those winds are dropping out as that low pressure fills, and so whilst there could be quite a lot of low clouds, temperatures maybe not getting too low, watch out because there will be some murkiness, some mist and fog, particularly around some eastern parts first thing on Saturday morning. Otherwise, through Saturday, showery bursts, rain here and there. None of it looks especially heavy, and many of us will actually avoid it and stay largely dry. That cloud in the east could linger through much of the day, so staying pretty cold under it here, but elsewhere a bit of sunshine breaking through.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 3 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to make 2026 the year of yes. That's yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to making all of those dreams come true this year. Just make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Friday, the 16th of January. I'm Tom Harmon.
And I'm Dawn Nissan.
This is the latest Christmas present I've ever had. And on that note, I will welcome Robert Jenrick into this room and into Reform UK.
Today, the dust begins to settle on a party system blown wide open. Robert Jenrick has defected to Reform after Tory leader Kemi Badenoch fired him as Shadow Justice Secretary. She certainly didn't pull her punches when she spoke to GB News earlier on today.
What I can tell your audience is that it's quite clear that Robert Jenrick tells a lot of lies, and you can't believe.
And Nigel Farage, for his part, says this isn't the end of high-profile defections, but he has set a deadline. So the question becomes, who's next?
That I must declare today that the Chief Constable of West Midlands Police no longer has my confidence.
And the man most grateful for Robert Jenrick yesterday was the defiant West Midlands Chief Constable, who refuses to quit despite admitting he lied to block Israeli fans from attending that Maccabi Tel Aviv Aston Villa match. But will the pressure today be enough? What will it take to get that man to resign?
And the deadline for submitting evidence to postpone local elections has now passed, with millions of people now seeing their right to vote for their own local councillors delayed.
And a tribunal in Newcastle has found 8 Darlington nurses who complained about a trans colleague using single-sex changing rooms at work suffered harassment with the effect of violating the dignity of the claimant and creating a hostile, intimidating, humiliating and degrading environment for them. Stay tuned for more details on that one.
And here's a curious one for you. This year's Nobel Peace Prize winner, Maria Corina Machado, has handed Donald Trump her reward medal during a meeting at the White House.
Hello, welcome to the show. And now for something completely different, as we were tempted to say at the beginning of this show, weren't we, Tom? But we were told off already.
Our wonderful producer was in our ears saying,